It's nice to be missed. I'm sure a lot of former New Yorkers are feeling that way right now after the comments of their former governor, Kathy Hochul. I mean, she's still the governor, but they're formerly New York residents. And she wanted him out, and now she wants him to come back. Sound familiar? It's the same conversation going on in every state that is facing mass exodus. And the top three for the last decade have been Illinois, New York, and California. Gee, what do they have in common? Back in 2022, she was all fired up to get everybody who disagreed with her and the political power structure in New York State. Get out of here. We don't need you.
That the era of Trump and Zeldin and Molinaro just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong, okay?
Yeah.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
Get out of town.
Get out of town.
'Cause you don't represent our values. You are not New Yorkers.
That's right. Get out of here, Proft, and all like you. You don't represent Illinois values. Okay. How about now? Kathy Hochul in an interview at some Politico confab.
What can we do to take off some of that pain that New Yorkers are feeling that I hear about literally every day? What I want to make sure we are smart about is having a system in place where it's not just taxing for the sake of taxing and being conscious of the facts that I need people who are high net worth to support the generous social programs that we want to have in our state. Right? Now, there are some patriotic millionaires who stepped up. Okay, cut me the checks. I mean, just if you want to be supportive, but maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home, because our tax base has been eroded. So I philosophically don't have a problem. It is like I have to look at the fact that we are in competition with other states who have less of a tax burden on their corporations and their individuals.
Is that right? Go down to Palm Beach and bring them back, please. Or at least their checkbooks. We'll even maybe turn a blind eye to where you live as long as you write the checks. Yeah, you don't even need to reestablish residency. Just write the checks. 312-642-5600. Give us a call or text. Get out of here. Please come back. Isn't that delicious? You know, it's interesting. I probably mentioned on the show before, New York, Massachusetts, interestingly, both have State Department of Revenue offices in Southwest Florida to try to basically extort expats from those states who move down to Florida, try and see if they can find some technicality to hold them up over whether or not they have formally detached from their former home states. I've heard a number of horror stories that, including Illinois Department of Revenue, doing the same thing. I think Illinois Department of Revenue has not put an office here. It's just an extortion racket to try to extract that last pound of flesh you can from productive people who fled. Mm-hmm. And you know the funny thing about it, with Kathy Hochul talking about, New York is spending more per homeless person than the median income of $81,700. The state is spending more. The city of New York. The city of New York is spending more per homeless person than the median income of $81,700. Homeless spending has surged from $102 million to $368 million in the last 6 years. Because you're not addressing a problem, you're funding a bureaucracy. And this is some things that even the high net worth individuals that Kathy Hochul wants to come back have started to recognize. I mean, this was sort of most famously exclaimed by Jimmy John Leotude, the founder of Jimmy John's, when he left Illinois for Florida, He said, look, I've been successful. I'll pay my taxes. I'm happy to pay my taxes. The biggest problem I have is not what I'm paying. It's that what I'm sending to Springfield doesn't go for what they say it's going to go for. Exactly. It's a fraud. It's a scam, and I'm tired of being a pigeon. I'm tired of propping up a political class that fleeces people to no particular ends except their own aggrandizement and, feather bedding the lives of those whom they actually serve, like public sector union bosses. That's the real Bob. Bob Woodson says it all the time. I mean, what has the Great Society done over the last 60 years? It's funding poverty bureaucracies that perpetuate dependency because that's how they continue to exist and grow. So the budgets increase, and yet the homeless population does too in New York City or California, where Gavin Newsom was going to solve it when he was mayor of San Francisco. Didn't solve it in San Francisco, didn't solve it in California. It's only been exacerbated in both places by the same policies. And it's the same story in Illinois, of course. It'd be different if you had demonstrable progress. These programs that we have stood up, they should have sunset dates along with their funding sources. So you're on the clock to make material progress and justify the ongoing existence of this program because we can demonstrate that we're helping people. We're reducing the homeless population. We're reducing recidivism. We're getting people from welfare to work. Most people, especially people who've been fortunate to be successful, are pretty fair-minded. Like, I'll give back, and I understand there's a place for government, and I understand there's the idea of providing a helping hand to people, but you got to show me something that works. And what programs in Illinois or New York or California, even combined state and federal programs, can that be demonstrated? Is there a prove up? 312-642-5600. Chris on the Dan Ryan.
Good morning, Dan. Happy Friday. Here's the big thing. So I'm currently convinced, I've been living in the state for many years. I'm currently convinced that the Democrats create these policies to create these things that are just so terrible. And then the Democrats say, wait, we have another bill that will solve this problem. We've got this Governor Jelly Belly who is now proposing an increase in property taxes to pay for the Bears to stay here. I say, hey, Bears, go to Indiana because you have a better life there than you are here in Illinois. We're getting shammed every day. And until us as the Illinois constituents stop acting like beaten dogs and actually stand up for ourselves, this is going to continue for the next 40 years, Dan, and that's just the truth, man. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Chris. Yeah, and then the guilt complex they try to foist upon you. Patriotic, it's patriotic to just fund ever-expanding bureaucracies that perpetuate dependency. It's sick. That is the opposite of being your brother's keeper. That's being your brother's feudal lord. That's relegating your brother to serfdom. So I don't want to participate in that. There's nothing patriotic about what they're proposing. The shaming of it. Head up to my eyeballs with that routine. Get New York, get Chicago, get California out of your mouth because you don't live there anymore. Yeah, okay. Right. That's all you have? It is all you have because you can't defend the way these states and cities are run on their merits. So all you can do is say, the hell with you for getting out when I can't. Or F you because you got out and I don't want to because I have to wallow in these pits of despair because they represent my so-called values. Paul and Carrie.
Hey, Dan. I drive around a lot. I just try to wrap my mind around all of this and the like, for instance, the bureaucracy that you're talking about. And I just wonder with the inflated salaries, the government jobs, the entitlements and so forth, do they go home at the end of the day and do they actually maybe justify to themselves and their constituents by saying silently that these people that are on the receiving end they're actually taking this. They're buying TVs. They're buying commodities. They're buying cars with those salaries. So in actuality, it's going back into the economy. So what's the big deal about it? What's the big deal? I mean, what are your thoughts on it? Is that part of their justification? It just blows my mind.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Paul. I mean, their justifications are those of a fifth grader. You just heard them from Kathy Hochul. It's an appeal to patriotism, your civic duty, sort of like, as I was sort of intimating, your brother's keeper sorts of arguments. You're supposed to just stay around and take it and shut your mouth. If you disagree, then you don't share our values. You're supposed to just be quietly fleeced, regardless of the performance of your government, how many people it hurts, as it purports to help people, and how much of other people's money it wastes. Paying your fair share. You didn't build that. We're all in it together. How many more refrigerator magnet aphorisms do you need to hear before you get the drop on this scam they're running? Mark in Valpo.
Yeah, until you fix the voter issue, you're always going to have this. I work with, I work on the South Side and with people on the South Side all day long, and they're red. I mean, they're black people that I work with they're red. They're red. They're sick and tired of this stuff. And unless you fix that voter issue, you're always going to have that in Chicago. I mean, all the way back to JFK, they've had a voting issue. And they still have a voting issue. When you can walk up and vote and under any name, I'm Joe Blowski, you can you're going to have that issue. And then you go to the next precinct and you show up and say, "Hey, I'm Joe Miller and I can vote there." I know guys that vote 5 and 6 times in these elections.
Thanks for the call, Mark. Yeah, that's a voting issue, and particularly in Chicago, Cook County. But the larger voting issue is the fact that the black voters that you're talking about and other demographics, you may run into some that are frustrated and they get it and they're tired of it, but they're a minority of the minority. That's the real voting issue. I mean, in addition to those who are insulated from terrible public policies and are just dilettantes and are completely beset by white guilt, to borrow from Shelby Steele. I mean, there's a lot of dynamics here. The real voter problem is the ignorance problem. It's the sentimentality problem. Second, the fraud problem is a distant second. Text from 630, out-of-state Department of Revenues have been around for 30 years. Related to sales tax audits conducted by auditors conducting audits at corporate headquarters for companies selling on an interstate basis. Mike in the Western Burbs. Yeah, that's part of it, but it's only part of it. And I know from people who've actually gone through this and people who staff those out-of-state departments of revenue that there has been a decided turn towards the high net worth individual over the last decade with the mass exodus from these flailing and failing blue states. So it's not just that. And they're staffing up. All right, time to check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 47 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. The body of a missing University of Alabama student from the Chicago area has been found in Spain. Police say a body was found in the San Morosto area, and it has been identified as James Paul Gracie. The 20-year-old student went missing on Tuesday after a night out at a Barcelona beachfront club. Aquatic and drone searches for Gracie were launched after police found a wallet floating in the water near San Morosto Beach. Gracie had traveled to Barcelona to visit friends who were studying abroad. Chicago police are looking for a suspect in the shooting death of a New York student attending Loyola University. 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman was walking with friends on Thursday morning on a pier in Rogers Park when a masked gunman opened fire in the group's direction. A bullet struck the teen in the head and she died at the scene. Police say Gorman was not the intended target. The victim's father, Thomas Gorman, and told the Chicago Sun-Times that he had a message to share. That message: tell everyone to hug their kids. This report is a service of Allstate. Some people just know you can save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now
Hugh Hewitt is pleased with the progress.
Can you imagine? And I'm sure the Iranian Navy was proud of the Iranian Navy. It's all sunk. All of it. Can you imagine what they think about this regime getting into this stupid war because the stupid mullahs wouldn't give up their uranium? They had all these wonderful ships they practiced all these years. They made all that propaganda of it. They're all sunk.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Alex Marlowe at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm Ben Barzita.
And I'm Matt Nadeau, founding partners of Barzita and Nadeau Wealth Management. And after more than a decade on the air, we're excited to be back with our brand new show, Money Hour Radio.
Tune in every Saturday at 1 p.m. on AM 560 as we break down retirement planning, market trends, tax reduction strategies, and our Advance and Protect investment approach.
It's sophisticated planning, independent analysis, and trusted guidance backed by over 40 years of combined experience.
Join us for Money Hour Radio, Saturdays at 1 p.m. on AM 560.
If your investments are in a 401k or an IRA, then listen carefully. You spent 30, maybe 40 years building your retirement. The question is, are you about to watch it take a hit you can't recover from? Military escalation in Iran, tariffs in legal chaos, the U.S. dollar under pressure it hasn't seen in years. History is clear. When this much uncertainty hits at once, the investors who moved into gold and silver first came out ahead. Right now, Advantage Gold is offering a free gold investment kit and a free copy of economist Ken Rogoff's powerful new book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000. Thousands of Americans have already rolled over a portion of their 401k or IRA into physical gold and silver, completely tax and penalty free through Advantage Gold. Don't wait for the next surge to wish you had moved sooner. Results vary. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
If you're near retirement or thinking about retiring, you probably have a lot of questions. How do you make your savings last? How much should you take out and when? You're ready for retirement, but are your finances? I'm Edward Jones financial advisor, Nolan Webster. Let's work together to make sure your finances meet your unique needs over the long haul. You've done what it takes to get there. Now it's time to make the most of retirement. Call me at 224-801-6107 to schedule an appointment. That's 224-801-6107. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
File now with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They'll find every credit and deduction or your money back. File in the Credit Karma app.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high of 60. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a low of 38. Tomorrow, anticipate partly sunny skies and pleasantly warm weather with a high of 64. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling, stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Since we're on the topic, thanks to Kathy Hochul, of the mass exodus from states like New York and Illinois and California, the worst governed states in the country. Illinois being the worst governed state in American history by the numbers. Chicago being the worst governed city in America by the numbers. But it's not just taxation that is compelling people to flee. It's stories like this.
Classmates of freshman Sheridan Gorman gathered inside of the campus chapel for a private vigil. A priest also seen headed in to lead the prayer.
Hold each other close. Don't dwell on how she left this world, but dwell on the memories that you have of her now.
She had a lot of friends. She was always smiling. It just reflects a lot about that person specifically. So knowing that, it's just horrible.
Less than a mile away from campus, police lights pierced the early morning hours at Toby Prince Beach. That's where detectives say the 18-year-old was out with friends around 1:30 a.m. when someone walked up to the group and opened fire in their direction.
We heard one pop, both my partner and I was hoping it was a firework, but then 20 minutes later, there was a lot of blood-curdling screams.
Investigators tell us while Gorman was not the intended target, she was shot in the head and died on scene.
I can't imagine the pain that's rippling through so many different communities.
One of those communities is Yorktown, New York, where Gorman graduated high school last year.
It's just so tragic to see a life, especially such a bright light of a life, cut short and so meaninglessly.
And back here in Chicago, the university says it is cooperating with police in their search for the shooter.
Well, we finally have an institution in Chicagoland cooperating with police at any level. That's novel. 18-year-old Loyola freshman Sheridan Gorman dead. By the way, how do police know she was, according to that ABC7 report, how do they know she wasn't the target? They don't have a guy in custody. How do they know he had a target? I know he was masked. I mean, perhaps they know something that they didn't disclose to the media. That's possible, but regardless, those are the kind of stories that speak to the values, the Chicago values that BLM Brandon, BJ, and JB love to prattle on about. Those are the kind of stories that keep people out of the city and out of the state. No, I know, increasing the hotel tax to fund tourism marketing, that will bring people back. The stories that make national headlines, that speak to the daily tragedies of life in Chicago, is also what keeps people away and has people packing up. And the response from the electorate is more of the same. And sensible people who see the performance and the reaction from their fellow citizens say, okay, I understand nobody has my back here. Nobody is interested in living in a civilized place. So I'm going to go find a civilized place to live and raise my kids and send them to school. 312-642-5600 to give us a call or text. 32-year-old man detained after he allegedly posed as a contractor, used intimidation tactics to gain entry to an 82-year-old woman's Southside home, then robbed her of cash. 6-time felon. Habitual violent criminals that are turned back on the street again and again and again. Judge Murphy, who ordered James Murphy, who's one of the few judges I recognize and know is good because he was felony review in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. You remember he had a very public resignation because he could no longer work under Kim Foxx for all kinds of obvious reasons. He detained him this time. This time he's detained, describing as a 6-time convicted felon with a history of scams. Preying on the elderly is as a habitual crime. That's real victimization too. But I know a lot of people don't see it that way. He's a nonviolent offender. No, sure he is. And then there's this guy making the rounds who just got sprung. He's a 30-time loser. And all within the last 10 years. Starting in about 2015 when he was arrested for battery. Eric Vinson is his name. And killing white people is his game, apparently. On the L, being videoed, with a hammer in each hand. And as whoever was filming him panned to frightened passengers on the L that are just looking down and hoping he doesn't swing one of those hammers. Here's his message to riders. How's that new CTA security program going?
Okay, whatever was white on I ain't lied about shit. I seen it, bitch. I just got robbed by dyke white bitches. Every black bitch that kiss ass to the white folks, I'm gonna kill them for real. I'm gonna kill your bitch ass for real right now. The problem on the red line, we finna solve this. Mississippi bitch kill ass the white folks. I'm gonna get rid of this for real. A white bitch still on the machine with you, I'm gonna kill that. And I just got out of Stateville Penitentiary 2 days ago. I'm finna kill for real. Every slave mentality finna get past the white folks. This finna die. I'm solving the problems of the red line here for real. I'm solving the white problem of the red line here. I'm solving the white problem for real.
30 arrests for assault. He's carrying, as I said, a hammer in each of his hands. Thankfully, he didn't go hammer time. And in case you didn't catch his tirade, I just got robbed by white bitches. Every bitch ass and N-word that kiss ass the white folks. I'm gonna kill them for real. I'm gonna kill your bitch ass for real right now. I was just out state penitentiary 2 days ago. I'm going to kill for real, N-word. Every slave mentality that kiss ass to the white folks is fitting to die. I'm solving the white problem for real. I think he's rehabilitated. What do you think? 312-642-5600. Meanwhile, Brandon Johnson is focused on the things we really care about, like the racial composition of the Chicago Fire Department.
And what I have done is I'm working with our HR, because that's where hiring rests, as we work to recruit more and more people to become firefighters, and particularly young black folks. To your specific question, I've made a commitment to the entire department that I would continue to use my platform to encourage more black young people to go into this profession, and also ensuring that our HR department has fair practices that allow for more of black applicants to be in the rotation for strong consideration. It is something that I have my eyes on.
Maybe Eric Vinson could get a jump start becoming a firefighter, turn his life around. Mike in Deerfield.
Hey, Dan, thanks for taking my call. There's a guy on Instagram. He's a real estate professional, very enthusiastic, and he always does these ads on properties available in the city. He was at a real estate conference, I think about a week ago, and he got up and he basically said, I'm waiting for February of 27 when Brandon Johnson is gone. He said, because right now, people out of state, people in the suburbs, no one is looking for property. Now, I would respond to him, how do you know things are going to get better? I mean, we thought things are going to get better after Lori Lightfoot, and we go to Brandon Johnson. So there's no guarantee. Now, I would argue it would be hard to get worse than Brandon Johnson. I mean, that would be, but you know what? I'm not going to say it couldn't happen. Now, tying in, you were talking about the states, Michelle Wu. Let's talk about her for a second.
Yeah, Barrington High School's very own, yeah.
Correct. Massachusetts enacted a 4% millionaire's tax a few years ago. A report just came out last week. 2023, they collected $4 billion less in revenue than they anticipated.
Of course.
So these states, they just keep losing people. So not only using their tax dollars, their income tax dollars, but think about all the other ancillary taxes these people are paying. It's just unbelievable. And I called last week and I was talking about these mayors in Chicago, and you called it the Great Disintegration, and I completely agree. It's exactly what it is. Put Colorado in there as well. Put Denver. Denver was a wonderful place 10 or 15 years ago. I talk to my clients who live out in the suburbs of Denver. They say they never go into Denver anymore. So that's another, it's another city that's been ruined by blue management. And you could just one after another, and it's really sad, and you're absolutely right. And we cannot survive as a country if these once great cities are just tearing themselves apart with terrible policy. Thanks for your discussions. I always love them. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for the call, Mike. Appreciate that perspective. Yeah, of course. Come at $4 billion less than they anticipated. People respond to incentives. I mean, what Chicago and Illinois could be or could have been over the last decade if it didn't export tens of billions of dollars in gross domestic product annually. I mean, Ken Griffin's move alone, but it's so much bigger than, the splashy one-off of the big corporation or the big corporate titan. It's all the people that have lived productive lives, that have amassed something. I'm talking about people that, made a few $100,000 to really actually in the middle. That's really what I'm talking about. People who spent, a good professional career making, between $200,000 and $500,000 and amass something for themselves. And, people that have, net worths of between $1 and $10 million, hundreds of thousands of them gone. All of that productive capacity, all of that consumption, all of that support for academic and civic and artistic institutions. And it's the indifference to it is so unnerving. Fine. You don't care? Me neither. I'm going to go chart a better life for myself in a more civilized place. And you can rail against me for doing so all you want. What do you expect me to live my life according to your viewpoints as opposed to according to my interests and the interests of my family? Are you nuts? Of course I'm not going to do that. Miro in Northwest Side.
Thank you. I'm up to here with the criticism towards you for being wise enough and doing the right thing and moving out of here. All these people that criticize you and people like you, they offer no constructive criticism. They offer no solutions. You, on the other hand, you get up at an ungodly time of the day, do this show, live in Florida. You don't need the work. You do it anyway. To me, that shows love of this city and love of this state. Because believe you, and all the other side does is offer hatred. Believe you me, if I could, I'm stuck here. If I could leave, I would leave, and I wouldn't think 2 seconds of Illinois or Chicago anymore. I would have zero to do with the city. You, on the other hand, get up every day and provide the right advice for this city and this state. And we thank you I especially thank you very much. Good day, sir.
Thank you, Miro. I appreciate that. Well, I mean, all I did was really take my own advice that I've been giving on the radio for, a decade before I left. And by the way, I come back quite a bit, particularly when the weather's a little warmer. I mean, of course, I still care about Chicago and Illinois. I still consider it my home, really. After 50 years, it sort of gets under your skin, for goodness sakes. So that's why the detractors and the ankle biters and the keyboard cowboys, I mean, they're hilarious to me. They're intellectually stunted. So why would I spend much time worrying about them? But it's more just to get people who are right thinking to understand the dynamic and make informed decisions and try to pay that forward, help other people make informed decisions. I had the position for a long time. I would say it on these airwaves and others. I don't want to leave. It's like I always said, the Mike Madigans and the John Cullertons and all these politicians, they're the ones who should leave. They suck. They're the ones who suck. I didn't do this to Chicago and Illinois. They did. They should leave. But unfortunately, no one seemed particularly interested in forcing them out, or certainly not enough people. I should say it that way, not no one. Not enough people were interested in forcing them out, and it became obvious that that was going to be the state of affairs in perpetuity, and we've still tried. Obviously, I still know what's going on. I still have family and a whole cadre of friends back there. But I mean, as I said, I'm going to, engage in self-flagellation in service of people who defecate on my values every day and shame me for disagreeing with them. How dare I be a dissident? Pound it. Tom and Oswego.
Good morning, Dan. This is a good topic. I appreciate it. It relates certainly to myself and my wife. I'm 65 right now. I'll be 66 this fall. My wife retired, and I told her I wanted to work until I was about 70. I run a small business, rather successful. But in the last probably year, even 6 months, she's convinced me 2 years and I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I've got 3 productive children in their 30s. They're already planning a 1-year plan to get out of here. And it's a shame. They're great kids. They grew up here. I grew up here. But I can't spend $18,000 a year just to send to the state every year. State tax, that's what I send. Just for the state. That's not including my property tax. Right. So they're going to lose that. They're going to lose property taxes. And all the other money that I spend here, I just don't understand what they're thinking, because sooner or later, everybody's just going to start, swirling down the hole. It's not sustainable, and we really need some smart people in office that can see that and start reversing that. But unfortunately, I'll be gone, and it's just a shame. It's a great topic, though, Dan. I wish more people would really focus on what's going on here.
Thanks for the call, Tom. Appreciate it. I know it's this counterintuitive dynamic I've mentioned many times, which is the worse they make it, the better it gets for them, because productive people like Tom leave. But if you can't get that uprising for regime change, to borrow a phrase, then what do you expect productive people are going to do? Productive people that have options. I mean, I'm not saying that people that, can't leave for familial or job reasons are not productive, but productive people that have flexibility, that have mobility options, what do you expect they're going to do? Jim in LaGrange. Quickly, Jim.
Hey, Dan, how are you? Everything that's happening is obviously a situation of poor policies that are being enacted, right? High crime, high residential tax rates, etc. And then we get this brilliant move by Choose Chicago yesterday. And Mr. Guy Ciparone, who's the chief of the Choose Chicago Board of Directors, states, we're going to...
Jim, sorry, I got to cut you off, but I know the hotel tax, we talked about it. We'll talk about it again. It's now 6 o'clock on AM 550.
It's day 21 of Operation Epic Fury targeting Iran. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
We've obliterated their Navy. We've obliterated their just about everything there is to obliterate, including leadership.
But President Trump also says he's not planning to deploy U.S. troops anywhere, though he told the reporter who asked if he did, he wouldn't tell him.
The Pentagon announcing it's deployed A-10s and AH-64 Apache helicopter gunships to destroy those small boats associated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Those missions being flown on Iran's southern coast off the Persian Gulf.
As the U.S. tries to secure oil shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, and Fox's Lucas Tomlinson also reports from Dubai, Iran keeps up the counterattacks.
Early this morning, multiple Iranian drones hitting a Kuwaiti oil refinery, causing a partial shutdown. And drone attacks on Saudi Arabia continue, as well as here in the Emirates.
Oil prices rising modestly this morning at the gas pump, another 3-cent rise today. There could be a fight over the funding Iran, the conflict. The War Department wants Congress to provide $200 billion. Fox's Jessica Rosenthal.
Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett told Fox's chat program the Pentagon request for more money should pass. He called Iran an enemy.
We've had over 100 incidents where they've come at American troops. Hamas is their surrogate army. They've killed Americans, and at what point do we say enough is enough?
But New York Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says no additional funding should be approved.
To have the audacity to come to Congress to fund a war that we have not even voted for. Not only is it illegal, it is insulting.
Winter ends in less than 4 hours, but in some areas it's like summer.
Across portions of the desert Southwest in California, where the heat has been extreme the last couple of days, we could see over 100 record-breaking highs.
Fox meteorologist Adam Klotz yesterday near Martinez Lake, Arizona, hit 110, the hottest March temperature ever in the U.S. America's listening to Fox News.
WIND, Chicago.
Good morning. It is 47 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Over 800 United Steelworkers are locked out of the BP Whiting refinery in Northwest Indiana. That move happened when the two sides stalled during contract talks this week. Union leaders say BP wants to cut over 100 jobs and reduce salaries. Management says its proposals are needed to keep long-term sustainability of the refinery. BP leaders say they don't expect the lockout to impact daily operations. Union leaders expect the lockout to last for weeks. A former staffer for ex-controversial Dalton Mayor Tiffany Haynyard is pleading guilty to bankruptcy fraud and filing a false tax return. Keith Freeman was the one-time administrator for both Dalton and Thornton Township. Federal prosecutors say the defendant received about $225,000 in pandemic funds after entering false information on 3 applications for economic injury disaster loans between 2020 and 2021. Freeman also made false statements in a January 2024 bankruptcy petition to conceal from his creditors his assets and sources of income and a significant claim against him. Meanwhile, Haynyard is under federal investigation for alleged corruption in her previous roles as the mayor of Dalton and Thornton Township supervisor, but no charges have been filed. And Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is vowing to veto legislation which freezes tipped wages in the city. The mayor called that freeze shameful. The city council voted to halt the future increases of the sub-minimum wage for tipped workers. That move was in response to financial concerns that were raised by some restaurant owners and employees. News is a service of Steiner Homes. Building homes is more than a business, it's a calling. Family owned and dedicated to building custom homes with care, integrity, and craftsmanship you can trust. Visit SteinerHomesLTD.com. That's SteinerHomesLTD.com. Northwest Indiana's leading home builder, Steiner Homes. Love where you live. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Alex Marlowe sees good things happening with Cuba.
Cuba is showing huge signs of weakness. The fact that they've already sat down at the table with Trump's people. And so they'll probably have to soften wildly, or else you could see a regime change there. This has been a big thing, and it feels like we've got some real potential to do a lot of good without perhaps firing a single shot.
The Alex Marlowe Show. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Crosscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Crosscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Crosscom.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Crosscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Crosscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
If you're nearing retirement, stop what you're doing and listen, because what's unfolding right now could hit your 401k or IRA harder than anything we've seen in years. Military escalation across the Middle East, a tariff war spilling into the courts, the U.S. dollar facing pressure that historically signals one thing, a flight to safety. Smart money has been moving into gold and silver, and it's not slowing down. Call Advantage Gold right now at 800-900-8000 and get your free gold investment kit, plus a free copy of economist Ken Rogoff's eye-opening book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. Thousands of Americans have already rolled over a portion of their retirement savings into physical gold and silver, completely tax and penalty-free through Advantage Gold. The next news cycle won't wait for you. Get into position now. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Results vary. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
I remember sitting in the kitchen, heartbroken, overwhelmed, staring at costs and a list of decisions. I prayed for strength and reached out to Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago, only to hear that Mom had already pre-planned everything so my siblings and I would be protected. Because she planned ahead, we weren't pulled apart by heartbreaking decisions.
Visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org or call 708-236-5407 to schedule a free consultation.
Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. 15 in, 13 out on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange is 18 minutes, 24 on the outbound side, but very slow as you approach Manheim Road. 14 minutes both ways on the Ike from Wolf to the old post office. You got 23 in, 22 out on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. 14 inbound on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange, looking great on the outbound side at 11. We are slow on the Jane Addams eastbound on the exit ramp to get onto the westbound Tri-State, and we've got the Shamrock Shuffle set up this weekend in Grant Park, so Balboa Drive both ways closed between Columbus Drive and Lakeshore Drive. This report is a service of the AM 560 Advantage. Membership has its privileges, including early access to event tickets, exclusive contest opportunities, and special member-only content. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high of 60. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a low of 38. Tomorrow, anticipate partly sunny skies and pleasantly warm weather with a high of 64. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Scott Tucker Solutions and his show Retirement Decoded. Sunday mornings at 8. Learn more at scotttuckersolutions.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Before we update the state of the preemptive retaliatory de-escalation campaign in Iran, don't call it war. Before we update that, and things are turning even more in America's direction, I'm happy to report. That's what it seems to me, but we'll get to that in a second. I just wanted to do a postscript on our conversation from last hour, particularly mentioning that terrible murder of that freshman Loyola student, the that instrument for social justice on the L that's scaring the hell out of passengers by wielding two hammers and talking about how he's going to kill white people after having just been sprung from the pokey a couple of days ago. 30 arrests in his background. And he's back to terrorize Chicagoans and anybody else. He seems particularly focused on killing white people. So we'll see how that goes. You know, we'll just spectator sport. We'll just see how it goes. And what's the worst that could happen? There are some law enforcement officials around the country that have had it with the other side of the criminal justice system, the judges and prosecutors. This is a very interesting development. Maybe we'll see that in Illinois, since we have a political power structure in Illinois that is not particularly keen on enforcing laws that they don't like, both federal and state and local. And, of course, it depends. They don't like them when they are enforced against people of a certain equity score, intersectional quotient. Well, Clark County, Nevada sheriff, his name is Kevin McMahill. He's tired of it. Really interesting dynamic. And so a judge wanted to release a criminal with 35 prior arrests, and he's not doing it. Nope.
I don't know how else to bring this to the public's attention and the judge's attention that I cannot effectively supervise these people when they ask me to put them out on electronic monitoring.
Clark County Sheriff Kevin McMahill speaking for the first time publicly Wednesday about 36-year-old Joshua Sanchez Lopez, right after the 8 News Now investigators learned of Sanchez Lopez's 36th arrest. Sanchez Lopez, the man at the center of a debate between Metro Police and several judges after one judge ordered Sanchez Lopez released from jail with an ankle bracelet. Metro declined, saying he was just too dangerous.
Today is not the day.
Las Vegas Justice Court Judge Eric Goodman ordered the release, saying defying that order could result in sanctions for contempt.
Again, here we are back in custody, multiple charges, same individual again.
In this 36th arrest, the sheriff says officers took Sanchez Lopez into custody Wednesday morning, finding him with a shaved mail key, fraudulent IDs and credit cards, and meth. McMahill says Sanchez Lopez will also face child abuse charges for the 8 children officers found in an apartment.
This is not effective management of people that are awaiting trial on a number of cases that they have before these magistrates.
Sheriff McMahill, can you relocate to Cook County or any of the collar counties or any county in Illinois? Finally. Yeah. Everybody deserves a 37th chance, of course. And why would you think somebody with 36 prior arrests, who the sheriff's police are intimately familiar with, obviously, because they keep arresting him, why would you think he would do anything out on electronic monitoring? Especially, he's facing child abuse charges. 8 children in an apartment. So the judge wants to send him back to mistreat 8 kids in addition to whatever his latest scam is, or whatever the next crime he'll commit when he's high on meth. Boy, it would be nice to see somebody draw a line in Chicagoland, wouldn't it? Like this, in a state with Pritzker's Purge law, the sanctuary state, the no cash bail state. There's some law enforcement officials like this guy in Clark County that have had enough and are willing to, risk a contempt charge. Go ahead, put the sheriff in jail. Make him a hero. Dan, North Side, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yes, good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good.
My name's Dan, too. I'm going to turn this down. I used to work for PADS, which is now currently Housing Forward, or Park, and maybe some other places. Mm-hmm. And I know that they were very effective when I worked for their PADS. You used to get quite a few people in for the evenings and so forth. Gave them food and so forth. And some of them were very decent people that would actually go out and work. Were working during the day, but just had no place to stay. Now, my suggestion would be something like some of the broken down homes or houses, or that could be fixed up, or factories that are no longer functioning in Chicago or surrounding areas or anywhere. Could be used for this kind of situation for those people. and it could be staffed with people that are looking for work. And it would be helpful, and because there's a lot of people out there, especially vets, I'm a vet, that would be able to develop through that situation and be able to become productive once again. And that's taxpayer money for, income taxpayer money for the state as well as federal and so forth, if you can get those people back to work. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with funding a program that has proven results, or that is a model that aligns incentives properly for productive behavior and has proper oversight, as opposed to funding these grotesque bureaucracies that are distant from the problem and are just sort of throwing money down, layers and layers of professional bureaucrats, they're filling positions because they're some alderman's idiot cousin, or because they meet a particular racial quota or something like that, which is how we actually do it. So, it's like I talk about, I mentioned, since we were just talking about Clark County, Nevada, Hope for Prisoners comes to mind. John Ponder's organization that transitions people who are getting out of prison from prison to the real world to be a productive citizen, to put his life of crime behind him. And his recidivism rate from his program, because it's intensive, it's 3 months, there's a spiritual component, it's hands-on, he knows of what he speaks, Ponder does, which is why he was recognized by the president in his first term, in Trump's first term. His recidivism rate is it's under 10%, where the recidivism rate system-wide is like 70%. So if you want to point to programs like that have proven results, that this is something we should replicate and scale, then I think most people would be on board to say that this is a judicious use of taxpayer dollars. But we don't do that because we don't have politicians that are interested in solving problems or improving the condition for people. We have politicians that are interested in dependency and growing bureaucracy and redistributing other people's money for their own political ends. That's the problem. It's a system problem that is completely misaligned with the desires that most normal, reasonable people have versus the interests that politicians have for themselves.
I see.
Thanks for the call, Dan. Pads, and I appreciate people, and the homeless veterans problem. It's a big problem, and mental health services, and this is why we have federal and state VAs. And if they're falling down on the job, then let's address that too. We had that scandal during the end of the Obama administration, where you had literally, I think it was tens of thousands of veterans who died waiting for health care services to which they are entitled. That's a scandal, but it also speaks to the effectiveness of these unwieldy bureaucracies. So let's be nimble, and let's be quick, and let's focus on better outcomes for individual clients. Treat them like you're running a business. You better serve this client, or you're going to be out of business, or you're going to be out of a job, or we're going to shut down your little fiefdom. It's really not that complicated if you come to the table with the right motivations and a willingness to be held accountable. But those qualities are completely absent in all these entitlement programs, even for populations that everybody wants to see helped. You want to see the mentally ill get the services they need so they are not a danger to themselves or others. You will obviously veterans. There's no disagreement there. Homeless people, whether they're suffering from addiction or mental illness or a couple of bad turns in their lives. We are not a callous people. We're an exasperated people because of the politicians, and just speaking of Chicagoland, that these sentimental barbarians who dominate our politics send to office and are completely oblivious or willfully blind to the consequences. Roger, Southside.
Can't agree with you more, Dan. And not to be a half glass empty on Friday. The other issue is, here we are, just a few days after, and here we're stuck with the Preckwinkles and the Pritzkers again. I mean, And our biggest issue with the root of all this is, they have rewritten the criminal code here. And also, and I'll let you go on this, how many ex-Cook County judges do you run into in Florida? Because they're all down there on their pensions. Your first place, you cannot deny that. Have a great Friday. Keep fighting. Everybody keep fighting.
Thanks for the call, Roger. Judges, politicians, cops, first responders, CEOs, partners at law firms. Yeah, it's the great cross-section. There's a reason that, Southwest Florida is called Chicago South, George in Naperville.
Yes, Dan, they elected a mayor in the city of Chicago that thinks police are a problem. They want to reimagine a world that doesn't exist.
Thanks for the call, George. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Hello, can I have your attention, please? My name is Hugh McKenzie, and I'm a devout listener of The Answer. They have partnered with Food for the Poor consistently for the last few years. In the past, I've always wanted to participate, but unfortunately never had the extra cash at the end of the year to do so. But last weekend, I received the mail, and there was a bonus check for $2,500 from Mack Truck for selling commercial vehicles. I decided that I was all in. As I mentioned, I sell commercial vehicles. Everything from Mack, Volvo, Hino, Isuzu, new and used. I've been selling for over 30 years in the Chicagoland market. Call me at 630-918-9534 or check me out on the web. Google my name, Hugh McKenzie. And Hugh is spelled H-U-G-H. McKenzie is spelled M-C-K-E-N-T-Y. All right, thank you very much for your time.
To contact Hugh McKenzie, search Hugh McKenzie on LinkedIn or call 630-918-9534. That's 630-918-9534.
Need life insurance but have diabetes, high blood pressure, or on anxiety meds? If you're a 50-year-old male, even porky, or with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of life insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. For affordable term life insurance, call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013, 800-444-2013, or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. 800-444-2013.
Mike Lindell and the MyPillow employees want to thank you for your great support this past year. They want to make 2026 the best year ever. So to thank you, they are giving you free shipping on your entire order and wholesale pricing. So they are bringing back the mega sale. For example, the classic MyPillows, regularly $49.98, now only $14.98. Turn any mattress into the best mattress ever with the Made in the USA MyPillow My Mattress Topper and save up to $100. Get a set of MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets for as low as $29.98 or the 6-pack towel set for only $34.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. These offers won't last long, so call 800-489-0201 or go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY. Order now and your entire order ships absolutely free.
Don't miss Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn every Sunday from 11 to 12. Robert has a different way of looking at retirement from most financial advisors and is happy to share his ideas with you every week. So don't miss what he has to say on AM 560 The Answer. Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn, Sunday mornings from 11 to 12.
Hey AM 560 listeners, Jeff checking in again from jeffbuysyourhouse.com. What I learned serving our great nation in the military is that every mission is unique and success starts with listening. For nearly 20 years, our veteran-led house buying team has taken the time to understand what matters most to each homeowner we serve. Every home has a story and every seller has different needs. Whether you want a quick closing or need extra time to find your next place, we customize our approach around what works best for you. That's how we've earned hundreds of 5-star Google reviews and an A+ rating with the BBB, by putting relationships first. No repairs needed, no cleanout required, and you pick the closing date that works best for your schedule. At jeffbuysyourhouse.com, we're here to help you through the entire transition, not just the transaction. Are you ready to work with a local team that takes the time to understand your home selling needs? Sell your house to the trusted source by calling us today at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Time now for another reason why Dan Proft is single.
Yeah, gather around, please. A postscript, though, before we get to why Dan Proft is single, the latest installment. Text from 630 talking about what we were just discussing. Remove the government office for veterans and replace it with Tunnel to Towers. I have a very small business and donate $2,000 a year to Tunnels to Towers. It's an amazing group. It is. That's another good example, right? Replicate and scale Tunnel to Towers and all the proven charities that serve veterans and first responders in so many ways. And by the way, that's why we partner with Tunnels to Towers and have for the last several years with our golf outing, our summer golf outing at the station. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. We want to see help actually provided. We want to see people's conditions actually improved, not just feel good about ourselves because we're throwing money at a bureaucracy that's throwing money at other bureaucracies. Okay. The Bachelorette, one of these ghastly, intolerable shows that speak to our cultural degradation. And I say the same thing about The Bachelor. These are horrific shows. But this is an interesting development, and it speaks to why they're so horrific. The facade of all of these young, attractive, successful men and women. Taylor Frankie Paul, I guess, was supposed to be the Bachelorette for this upcoming season, which is the 400th season or something like this. But then TMZ obtained a video of Taylor Frankie Paul that is, it paints her in less than a favorable light. Here's Taylor Frankie Paul when times were good. She was preparing to be the Bachelorette.
Hi, guys. We are now in the limo. Wish me luck. Bye. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Taylor Frankie Paul, your new Bachelorette. My rise to fame has been sudden.
6 million followers, over 1 billion views.
It was a huge deal, which led to the secret lives of Mormon wives. I've been criticized, I've been judged, and I've been rejected. But anyone that takes the time to know me will see that I'm actually a genuine person, and I mean well. And a person that deserves another chance at love.
There it is.
Stepping into this role as a Bachelorette will be new for me.
I'm a person who deserves another chance at love. Oh, gosh. I rest my case in terms of the ghastliness of these people in this show. And the Why Dan Proft is Single is not even about Taylor Frankie Paul. It's about how popular these shows are. I deserve another chance at love, says the veteran of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Come on. Are you serious? Oh, yeah. Well, she is a genuine person. And you know how she's genuine. She judges her success by how many social media followers she has, amplified by the blowtorch of ABC News and the cultural idiocy that pervades the West. Okay, sure. Well, the video, which gives you another side. There's so many sides, so many layers to Taylor Frankie Paul. Here's one of them, going completely bat blank crazy on apparently her ex-boyfriend, and he's not a small dude, but he is trying to get out of her house alive before the bar stools start flying in his direction, and he didn't make it. I mean, he got out alive, but he didn't make it without having to endure some flying bar stools.
This is called physical abuse. Yeah.
Yeah. See, Taylor, this is all you do. It's the only thing you know how to do.
Holy
It's okay.
I don't give a
Let me go. Stop. Stop. Dude, leave me alone.
And here come the bar stools. There's her daughter. That's pointing to her daughter who's
right
watching.
here.
Yeah. There's a bar stool.
Oh my gosh.
Here's a bar stool.
Oh my.
So that video has, I guess, resulted in the cancellation of this season of The Bachelorette. I'm so sorry to inform you. A spokeswoman for Taylor Frankie Paul. Oh, she's got one of those now. Well, because she's so successful. Saying the video omits context. Yes. It's sad to see the latest installment of this never-ending, desperate, attention-seeking, destructive campaign to harm Taylor without any regard for the consequences of their child. I'm sorry. I mean, you're talking about someone who was throwing bar stools at someone else in front of her child, and you heard her crying in the background. Thankfully, the public has seen this act before and knows who he is, and it's the guy's fault. Of course, the context. And sadly, many will recognize this pattern of manipulation, both in his actions on the show and from their own experiences. I don't know. Maybe this guy's a douchebag, too. As I said, I find them all to be completely unredeemable. So I'm not taking any sides here, except the side that you don't throw furniture at people, generally speaking, and particularly in the presence of a young girl or a young child. So, yeah. But again, why Dan Proft is single? The popularity of these people. Coming up at 6:36, we'll get the latest on the status of passing the Save America Act. We'll be joined by Heather Higgins from the Independent Women's Forum. 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 49 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A vigil was held last night for a Loyola University student who was shot and killed near a beach in Rogers Park. Police say Sheridan Gorman was with friends near a pier in the 1000 block of West Pratt Boulevard when a gunman opened fire. Police continue to search for that shooter. Chicago's Deputy Mayor for Public Safety is out after being fired yesterday. Gary Gatewood said he was called into a meeting and told the administration was going in a different direction. First Deputy Jason Sanford will now serve in the role on an interim basis. Some community leaders say the timing is a concern as the city heads towards the summer months. And police in Spain say a missing college student from the Chicago area has been found dead in Barcelona. James Gracie disappeared during a spring break trip after he was last seen early Tuesday leaving a beachfront nightclub. Investigators say his body was found Thursday near the beach and the cause of death remains under investigation. This report is a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you by visiting 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. That's 56david.com. Atlantic Coast Mortgage, equal housing lender, NMLS 613114. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Mike Gallagher tries to keep it civil.
Is this battle about Israel, and that's what it seems to be about, representative of what's going on within the Republican Party, sort of writ large? That's another tricky part of this. I don't know the answer to that. I would like to think that every one of these podcasters who are currently at war with each other are on the same team.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results. Done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, EVER, remodeling.com. And schedule your free in-home consultation today.
Tough, reliable, and ready to work. You were born that way. Kubota is built that way. Our entire ag lineup, featuring versatile tractors and hay tools, powerful skid steer loaders, and the rugged Sidekick utility vehicle, is designed with the engine of a Kubota and the heart of a farmer. Visit KubotaUSA.com to find a dealer near you.
The smartest self-defense decision is not made in the moment. It's made before danger ever appears. Because when you pull a firearm trigger, well, you're not just stopping a threat. You may be starting a chain of legal, financial, emotional consequences that can follow you for years. Now, that's why more responsible Americans are choosing to lead with a less lethal option that is effective. That's where Burner, their less lethal launchers, it fires tear gas, kinetic rounds, pepper spray. It's designed to stop any attacker for up to 40 minutes. And it gives you time to escape. It gives you time to create distance and get help without using deadly force. Now, Burner's best-selling compact launcher is sleek, it's slim, it's incredibly powerful. It's built for discreet, everyday carry. No background check. They can ship it directly to your door. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your future. Start with less lethal. Visit byrna.com today and find the right launcher for you and your family. That's byrna.com today.
File with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then they help you do more with it. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. 15 minutes both ways on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose, 19 in, 26 out on the Kennedy from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange, but outbound very slow as you head towards Manheim Road. You've got 14 minutes both ways on the Ike from Wolf to the old post office, 24 in, 22 out on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange is 16 minutes. Outbound is 11. The express lane's a little bit sluggish between Pershing Road and the Stevenson on the inbound side. You are slow on the Jane Addams eastbound on the exit ramp to get onto the westbound Tri-State. And in Graham Park, Balboa Drive shut down both ways between Columbus Drive and Lakeshore Drive for the Shamrock Shuffle. This report is sponsored by True Green. True Green, don't waste another weekend doing your lawn care yourself. Partner with the official lawn care treatment provider of the PGA Tour and get a golf course quality lawn the easy way. Sign up at truegreen.com. Then sit back and relax. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will bring a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high of 60. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with a low of 38. Tomorrow will be partly sunny and pleasantly warm, reaching a high of 64. On Sunday, there will be a passing shower in the morning, then turning mostly cloudy, breezy, and cooler. The high will be 54, with temperatures dropping into the lower 40s. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Wealth Health Radio with Joe Murphy, Sundays, noon to 1. Learn more online at mwmfinancial.tax.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So, the state of the Save America Act. Well, yesterday, Senator Mike Lee took up a proposal from Ohio Senator John Husted. Utah Senator Mike Lee, of course, the lead sponsor of the Save America Act in the Senate. Took up this proposal from Ohio Senator John Husted, Republican, to just separate out and have a vote on voter ID. Just let's do the voter ID thing. Another 85-15 issue. None of the other extraneous matters, but we can do this individual proposal and then get back to the other features of the Save America Act.
For the same reasons articulated by the senator from Ohio, I think this is an exceptionally good idea. It's not every bill where it makes sense to separate out a provision, try to pass that provision on its own, separate from the rest of the text of the bill. But this is one of those instances where it makes sense. Now, don't get me wrong. Neither I nor the senator from Ohio are suggesting that we still don't need the rest of the Save America Act. That's not our point. The point is that these are separately divisible, such that they could be enacted separately. And insofar as there is a greater degree of consensus with regard to the voter ID component of the Save America Act than there are with regard to the citizenship components, it makes sense for us to get this done now. Let's pass it. Let's pass it right now. Let's pass it by unanimous consent. Let's make this law, and then we can proceed back to deal with the rest of the issues within the Save America Act. This is what progress looks like. This is what consensus building looks like. And I thank my friend and colleague from Ohio for raising this. Look, no matter how you feel about the rest of the provisions of the bill, it's not too much to ask somebody to just show who they are when they show up on voting day. That provision is very simple. Let's get this passed. Let's get it done right now.
Madam President.
Yeah, you'll be shocked to learn it didn't get done right now. Senator John Kennedy, no, other than Fetterman, no Democrat supports that. I mean, that's the bottom line. Senator John Kennedy, the colorful senator from Louisiana, was on with Martha McCallum yesterday on Fox, reiterating his call to, hey, let's, try all avenues. And one of the avenues is reconciliation. Now, the argument is that the Senate parliamentarian, under the Byrd rule, will disqualify passing the Save America Act under a reconciliation play. But Kennedy argues we got a lot of smart lawyers, and I'm one of them, and we should at least make the effort because we should leave no avenue unexplored in trying to move this legislation.
Well, you don't have to be Einstein's cousin to see all this coming. And I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think we're going to get any Democratic votes. So how can you pass the bill without Democratic votes? You do reconciliation. Now, some of my Republican colleagues say we can't get it past the Budget Control Act, which controls what we can do in reconciliation. How the hell do they know? We haven't even tried yet. There are a lot of smart lawyers in this country that can draft a bill that I think can pass what we call the Budget Control Act and get past the parliamentarian. I've seen plenty of provisions get past the parliamentarian that I didn't think had a chance, and vice versa. But my point is, why not give it a shot? Yeah. If what we're doing is not going to work, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't hear any Democrats changing their mind. Then why don't we do something that will work? I mean, it's a matter of common sense to me, but I'm in the minority on this among Republicans. I freely admit that.
But you're saying if you could...
They better explore every possible avenue because, as Mike Lee said in a post-debate press availability, the failure to move the Save America Act to the president's desk doesn't only make American elections less secure, less insulated from voter fraud. It also, as we've talked about in this show, it's a pretty obvious point, has the potential to be very demoralizing to the MAGA base of the party, and that portends poorly for Republicans' chances to hold either chamber come November. So maybe some of these politicians should act in their own interests and their own party's electoral interests, even if they can't find their way to be courageous on the principle of the matter.
If we don't get it done, or at least do everything that we possibly can to try to get it passed, I think there is a very significant risk that our own base doesn't show up for us in November. We worry about that. We also worry about the integrity and the security of our elections. Nobody knows exactly how things will pan out, in part because we don't yet know the extent of the problem. What we do know is that in the states that have started reviewing the voter registration files in order to weed out those who might have registered, perhaps inadvertently, perhaps intentionally, already there have been thousands of voter registration files identified just in the handful of states that have been doing their own review. The states that have not been doing their own review would yield really significant results if those reviews began. But a lot of those same states that are run by Democrats are not only not doing their own review, they're refusing even to share their voter registration files with federal officials in an attempt to try to go through it. It begs the question, why? When you add to that this additional dynamic of the handful of states in which some local elections openly allow non-citizens to vote, and the fact that they have also been unwilling to share that, and they've also been unwilling to explain how, whether, to what extent, in what ways, they separated out those voter registration files who are non-citizens.
For more on this, please be joined by Heather Higgins. She's the CEO of the Independent Women's Voice. Heather, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
So glad to be with you this morning.
So are you impressed with what Mike Lee and John Kennedy and John Husted and some of these Republican senators are efforting to do to this point?
I'm very grateful, and they really are standouts. With the Husted motion, the only people who were truly thrilled were campaign consultants who were seeing the ads writing themselves with all these Democrats who claim that they support voter ID, but yet wouldn't vote for this standalone effort to just support that. So it was very disappointing, I think, to the Republican base. Not unsurprising at all, but disappointing, which is why the efforts to do the true reconciliation are so very important, as are the importance of keeping it on the floor for as long as it takes, right through recess in the spring, because that's when you actually get votes to change, because people want to go home, and senators are not used to working terribly hard or working through vacations or anything else. And so that's a tactic that you and I have seen used for years on things where leadership actually wants passage. They will keep them there. And it has been done in the past, whether it was on the Obamacare vote in 2013, whether it was on the Civil Rights Act, whether it was on innumerable omnibus and appropriation bills. So there is psychological pressure that can be brought to bear. And the other thing that people forget is the rule, or the advice, I should say, of the parliamentarian is not binding. It is only advice. And they do not have to actually take it. But it's a convenient dodge for not doing certain things that leaders tend to adhere to because they've got a parliamentarian who rules the way they want them to. But the parliamentarian could be overruled, and the vice president could step in and, be that vote. So,
right, but it's all, and that's an excellent point you raise, and that a lot of people didn't know, and I failed to raise it, so I'm glad you did. And that speaks to the larger problem too, even in the discussions of the filibuster, is a larger issue. I don't know that it's a problem. I think there's arguments to be made on both sides, but the Senate's slavish loyalty to norms, more so on the Republican side these days than the Democrat side, of course, but with them telegraphing that they'd blow the filibuster if they could, or if they get power. But
we're now at the point of
norms. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're at the point of political malpractice. It has been explicitly stated repeatedly now on the left that if they have the votes, they're getting rid of the filibuster. Yeah. So to know that that is coming and to still proceed as though that's not happening is insane. The thing that people need to remember, and I think a lot of people don't actually know this, they hear that you need 60 votes to pass something in the Senate. You don't. You need 51 votes to pass something in the Senate. What you need for 60 votes is the motion to either put something on the floor or to stop debating it so that you can have the vote on passage. But the vote on passage is just 51 votes. It's the obstructions they put up on getting to the vote to have passage. That's what we're talking about with the filibuster rules. And in recent years, they have abused the filibuster to their own ends. There are actually two of them. There's the first one to get in legislation onto the floor to be debated in the first place, and that has been used as an incumbent protection act, right? If you don't want to have people having to make statements on things that might be uncomfortable for them, you just never let it get to the floor, which is why the Senate has become the place where legislation goes to die, not the great saucer of deliberation that it used to be. And then the other one is the famous filibuster where you've got, Mr. Deeds Goes to Washington and those 1930s films where he's standing up there talking till he's blue to try and keep something from getting to the point of being voted on in opposition and trying to persuade people. Well, they don't do that anymore. They can be on a beach. They can be on a junket. They can be on a fundraiser in California, and they can just sort of phone in their filibuster opposition. Nobody needs to be on the floor. And so the idea of actually keeping them there and then furthermore making them talk and go on the record is an important and powerful one. And I think for those of us who have real jobs and have real accountability and will work nights and weekends to get things done when it needs to be done, we're a little bit disgusted at watching how the Senate functions.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up too, where the fear of having to take positions and to take votes. And this is something actually that essentially John Thune admitted. He used it as a argument to try to insulate him, but I thought it sort of exposed him when he's talking about the talking filibuster. And then one of the problems with that is then you have the opportunity for all sorts of amendments to the legislation to be introduced. And then our caucus would have to take some very tough votes, potentially politically. And some of those bad provisions could actually pass and be attached to the bill. So it's like, anything to minimize political risk, even at the expense of the whole point of this, which is to get this legislation to the president's desk.
Yeah. So the point that was made, I'm trying to remember which senator made it, that the base is looking to see if there is reason to vote for House and Senate members, because they don't seem to do, particularly on the Senate side, nearly as much as people would expect them to do. They've got a president, they've got the House, they've got the Senate. Why is more not happening? And one of the things that you saw in the elections in 2024 is there's already a cohort of people who vote the top line for Trump, but then they just walk out of the voting booth and they didn't bother to vote for the senatorial candidate and the House candidate. You saw that in the 2018 midterms. You saw that in 2025. When Trump was not on the ballot, you had very different turnout among the electorate. And I think a big part of the reason is the electorate that will vote for Trump believes that Trump will move heaven and earth to do what he says he's going to do. They don't see House and Senate members being willing to move heaven and earth to do what they promised to do. So earning that trust, this is a really kind of critical time for Thune and the rest of the Senate to demonstrate that they will do everything in their power to deliver on huge 80% issues that are not just partisan wish lists, but something that everybody who wants a healthy, functioning republic should be hoping for.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about the Husted play yesterday with just voting on the voter ID, and that was great because it got Democrats on the record as opposing voter ID. If they think that the play, my view is, if they think that the play is just to, expose the left for who they are, and despite the fact that some of them say, of course I support voter ID, they voted against it, or they failed to take an opportunity to vote for it, and so we have to stop them. If they think that's going to be sufficient in the context of failing to move the Save America Act, the failing to deliver, as you're saying, I don't think it is. I think you'll see the same drop off in turnout in 26 that you've seen in those previous cycles that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's a concern, and I think that's also just going slightly astray. One of the mistakes that's being made on the Republican side is that they assume that they can turn out the Trump voter, and they're going after the low propensity GOP voter. But in fact, what they really need to be doing is persuading all those moderate, reasonable people who are not as Republican or not as Democrat, but they just want voter ID, they want sensible things, that they can deliver these things. Because if they can't deliver them, what's the point? Right. And so the Republicans will make the point that, if you don't want to have impeachment for the following 2 years, then you need to vote for House and Senate leaders. But that's not nearly as motivating as we deliver for you. Remember the contract with America. That was a powerful motivating tool to think, okay, there's whatever my feelings about this particular senator or congressman, there's this larger thing that they're needed to accomplish. And unfortunately, we haven't seen anything like that out of the House or Senate.
And the enthusiasm gap matters in terms of turnout, right? Yeah. Something else, too, I made this point yesterday that, the Republican caucus is relatively weak in the Senate. And, one of the ways you can tell is because John Thune is the leader of the Republican caucus. So that speaks to the nature of the caucus. But that's really not an excuse for not dying on a hill on this matter, because, part of what the leader needs to do is get recalcitrant or squishy Republicans, to act in unison. And if you don't do that, then you've failed as a leader.
Yes, but remember that only a third of them are up for election, and the other 2/3 of the Senate figures that this will be so far in the rearview mirror that nobody will remember. So it's hard to motivate them, which is why things like Lee's idea of using the filibuster and not calling for a cloture vote, but keeping them in Washington until this is done and having the resolve to do that is extremely important. I would say if your listeners care about this, the single most important thing for them to do is for them to call Thune's office, as well as, obviously, well, you're in Chicago, you've got Democrat senators, but calling Thune's office and say, if you want any money for the Republican Senatorial Committee, if you want support, we're waiting to see how you behave on this and whether you deliver. And things like, the idea of putting it through the bird bath and claiming that there are real financial implications from voter fraud are actually worth trying, if this doesn't work. But I think that the best approach is Lee's, which is just keep them there indefinitely. No end date, no going home. All of your plans for your trips that you were going to take over the break, et cetera, you're not going. Not until this is passed. And we've seen them do it when it mattered before, and I don't understand why they don't think this matters every bit as much.
And Hoosiers listening can certainly put a call into Todd Young's office. I don't think Jim Banks is needed, but Todd Young probably couldn't hurt. Heather Higgins, CEO of Independent Women's Voice. Heather, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And Heather joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Anthony and John here from Bionic Auto Parts, proud clients of Signature Bank. We deliver high-quality, recycled and remanufactured auto parts to Chicago and Milwaukee. Our mission is simple: provide parts safely, reliably, with great customer satisfaction.
We process over 350 vehicles a month. With big banks, everything took forever. Layers of approvals and endless delays. At Signature Bank, one call got it done. Whether it's lending, deposits, or treasury management, they deliver fast. Signature Bank made us feel like family. That's a partnership we deeply appreciate.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Why would you take your precious metal collections to some fly-by-night roadshow that rolls into town once a year? The only thing you need to do is follow the road to Fox Valley Coins and show your gold or silver to the team. Gold is at an all-time historical high, so don't keep sitting on your coin hoards or old jewelry that you've been saving to sell when the time is right. The time is right now. Prices have never been better on most collector and gold coins. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is trying to keep up with demand. So they're paying the most ever on not only most gold coins in bars, but also those old coin collections. You might have scarce dates or higher grade coins, so take advantage of the record high market price and the demand now. Whether you're buying or selling, or just want to find out values, trust the team at Fox Valley Coins. Fox Valley Coins is on Route 59, just one light north of I-88 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
AM 560, The Answer.
Email from a listener. I just sent for a death certificate from the Cook County clerk. In order to receive a copy of a birth, death, or marriage certificate, they require that I send a photocopy of my driver's license, plus a self-addressed envelope since the $17 fee wasn't enough. And it took 6 weeks for them to mail it back. They contracted with a private company to also provide it for you at double the price, and they wanted even more personal information than what's on your driver's license. Yeah. The real world, as opposed to the world the left describes. It is now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Trying to stop Iran's counterattacks. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. U.S. fighter jets and attack helicopters targeting Iran, trying to take out the threats to oil shipping that have prices moving all over the place this morning. They were down and up, and now they're down again. President Trump urged our allies to help secure the Strait of Hormuz, but there is
a potential coalition of nations to make that happen would include the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Japan, and Canada. None of those nations, as of yet, though, planning to send military assets to the region. The number of ships entering and leaving that strait on a daily basis. By Tuesday, that number was down to 0.
Fox's Steve Harrigan near the Iran border in Armenia.
Iran, of course, continues to attack the energy infrastructure of its neighbors in the region, launching a fierce attack against Qatar. This after Israel attacked a major oil field in Iran.
Now, President Trump is urging Israel not to attack that gas field again, and the prime minister says they won't. The president also wants Congress to provide $200 billion to help fund the Iran conflict, now in day 21, calling it a small price to pay.
We want to have vast amounts of ammunition, which we have right now. We have a lot of ammunition, but it was taken down by giving so much to Ukraine.
But would Congress approve that new funding? Democrats oppose it and could possibly block it in the Senate. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer calls the request unacceptable and ridiculous. The search is over for a missing American in Spain. University of Alabama student Jimmy Gracie went there on spring break. He's been found dead.
Dive teams recovered the 20-year-old's body from the water at a marina about 500 feet away from the nightclub where Gracie was last seen Tuesday. Spanish police had also found his wallet floating in the sea and recovered his cell phone during the arrest of another person, but it is still unclear what led to Gracie's disappearance and death.
That's Chanley Painter. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 49 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. The Joliet City Council has approved plans for what will become the largest data center in the state. The proposed center will be built on land next to the Chicagoland Speedway. The proposal calls for 24 buildings which will hold the servers and storage for AI. Last night's meeting was packed with residents, many who were there to express their feelings against the proposed center. Joliet officials estimate the new center will bring up to 10,000 construction-related jobs and 700 permanent jobs, as well as upwards of $2 billion to the local economy. A state lawmaker says it's time to change an Illinois law that allows people who record or transmit videos of minors without their authorization to avoid registering as sex offenders. Jim Talamonte reports.
State Senator Darby Hill said Senate Bill 2381 would require people to register as sex offenders if they exploit a minor through unauthorized recording.
This is about accountability. This is about closing a loophole that should have never existed. And most importantly, this is about protecting children.
Hill said she prosecuted cases that involved child victims when she was an assistant state's attorney in Cook County.
Those cases never leave you.
Despite bipartisan support, Senate Bill 2381 did not pass the General Assembly last spring. The bill was reassigned to the Criminal Law Committee last month. I'm Jim Talamonte.
And the Better Business Bureau is warning that recent snowstorms and warmer weather will increase the number of fraudulent schemes tied to home repairs, storm damage, and door-to-door sales. The group says before hiring a contractor, you should research the businesses at their website at bbb.org. This report is a service of the AM 560 store. Order t-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Proft University and The Sean Thompson Show when you go to 560theanswer.com/store. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Scott Jennings doesn't trust some in Washington.
This buffoon, Chris Murphy, he's on the Senate Intelligence Committee. He keeps saying crazy things. I think this guy, honestly, is walking into these Intelligence Committee briefings and coming out and lying through his teeth to the American people under the guise of, well, I've seen these things. You can't see it, but let me tell you. I think it's awful.
The Scott Jennings Show, weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
The smartest self-defense decision is not made in the moment. It's made before danger ever appears. Because when you pull a firearm trigger, well, you're not just stopping a threat. You may be starting a chain of legal, financial, emotional consequences that can follow you for years. Now, that's why more responsible Americans are choosing to lead with a less lethal option that is effective. That's where Burner, their less lethal launchers, it fires tear gas, kinetic rounds, pepper spray. It's designed to stop any attacker for up to 40 minutes. And it gives you time to escape. It gives you time to create distance and get help without using deadly force. Now, Burner's best-selling compact launcher is sleek, it's slim, it's incredibly powerful. It's built for discreet, everyday carry. No background check. They can ship it directly to your door. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your future. Start with less lethal. Visit byrna.com today and find the right launcher for you and your family. That's byrna.com today.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
You ever wonder why Verizon charges twice as much as Pure Talk for the same basic service? Think it might have something to do with the fact that Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion. That's billion with a B. Yeah, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. That's why they can offer unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Save an additional 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say the words micro. That's pound 250. Micro.
This is Sean Thompson. One of the things I remember about spring is listening to my grandfather walk around and say, opening day. It's just around the corner. He used to think those were the two sweetest words you could say during springtime because he was a big baseball fan. And for most people, that's the case. It's one of the greatest American traditions each spring. But there's another great American tradition that isn't far off, and that's called Tax Day. Well, opening day and Tax Day show up around the same time each year. We don't look at them in the same way. Well, you're optimistic about your favorite team. When's the last time you felt optimistic about stroking a big check to Uncle Sam? It doesn't have to be that way, and all you have to do is call Tom Fortino, the people at Alpha Wealth Group, who believe that baseball is a seasonal game, but tax planning goes on year-round. So if you don't want to write a big check in your retirement, and you don't want to have your Social Security or Medicare premiums affected by it, call Tom Fortino and the people at Alpha Wealth Group for their complimentary retirement roadmap. Call them at 630-864-6711. That number again is 630-864-6711 or online at alphawealthgroup.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hackberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. We're looking at 15 minutes both ways on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy inbound is 24 minutes from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 26. We're real slow on the Jane Addams eastbound on the ramp to get onto the westbound Tri-State. And on the Tri-State northbound, you've got delays in getting onto the outbound Eisenhower. Now, the Ike is 22 minutes in, 22 out from Wolf to the old post office, 32 in on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. Outbound is 24. The Dan Ryan is 20 minutes from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound looks good at 11. Northbound Lakeshore Drive hitting those brakes between Bryn Mawr Avenue and Hollywood Avenue. News traffic is a service of American Beam and Steel, structural repair licensed contractors for your home and business. Search for American Beam and Steel online to schedule your consultation directly with the owner, Mark. American Beam and Steel. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will bring a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high of 60. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with a low of 38. Tomorrow will be partly sunny and pleasantly warm, reaching a high of 64. On Sunday, there will be a passing shower in the morning, then turning mostly cloudy, breezy, and cooler. The high will be 54 with temperatures dropping into the lower 40s. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Why is the left so psychotic? These awfuls and rawfuls, these sentimental barbarians. We're going to hopefully get some insight into that question from Jonathan Alpert, psychotherapist, who joined us shortly. I mean, it's not funny if you're the Tesla owner, but meet Karen Lewis Cook of Collettsville, North Carolina. Still vandalizing Teslas? That is still de rigueur on the left. She's a little late to the dance. She's also late to the recognition that Teslas have cameras on them, so you get caught when you vandalize a Tesla as she did, taking a board with nails on it and scraping it against this guy's car. He was surprised, too.
I just couldn't believe it was actually happening. You know, we had all the craziness with Teslas when Elon was part of Doge and all that stuff, but I thought we had kind of gotten past that, and I'd kind of made it through unscathed. So it was kind of just shocking.
That still qualifies as a political statement from the left, particularly the awfuls. And what's with nurses? Yet another nurse. Remember the nurse from a few weeks ago who wished horrific things on Caroline Leavitt after it was announced that she was pregnant? Horrific things. Here's a nurse out of Philadelphia who's rooting for the Iranians to assassinate Trump.
So I heard the new leader of Iran wants to take out you-know-who. And leader of Iran, if you're seeing this for any reason, I just want you to know that most of us are rooting for you. Actually, but I think most of us would like it to be kind of slow and painful, if you wouldn't mind. Okay? Go get them, bud.
A Guthrie, New York clinic worker, another medical professional.
Now, Iran, you do know that your target is not New York City, right? I just want you to understand the assignment, okay? And because we don't agree with this, but your target is Washington, D.C. and Mar-a-Lago, okay? Not New York City, not anywhere else. Those two places. Okay? We here? Don't miss like the last person. Okay? All right. And when I say Washington, D.C., I just want to be clear, okay? It used to be a really nice White House. It's the trap house now, but it's still called the White House. That's the target in Washington, okay? Just want to make sure I'm clear on the instructions. Just make sure you understand this. I'm sure you guys are already on top of it, because I'm sure there's some other little hiding places and sewer holes and whatnot where these people will be at. But focus on the target. Okay? Focus on the target. Okay? I'm over here rooting for you. Make sure your aim is good. Don't miss. All right.
Right, nothing like rooting for the Ayatollahs, or of course Joy Reid, one of the intellectual leaders of this cadre of females you've just heard about and heard from, comparing Iran to America favorably.
Our regime has secret police. They have secret police. Our regime is oppressing women, taking away abortion rights, taking away women's rights in like 26 states, some states where they're trying to have the death penalty for having an abortion. They also oppress women. They have the highest rate of women who are in STEM careers. We're kicking women out of the military, out of university. We're saying that DEI means women can't be hired for high positions in the sciences. We're marginally better. And we're doing it for Christianity. They're doing it for Islam, right? Yeah. So it's like we don't get told those things because it would take away the kind of American exceptionalism narrative.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought that was a nice concession on her part, despite detailing the oppressive society that is America, particularly if you have a high intersectional score like Joy Reid, a Harvard graduate, how oppressive this country is for people like her. That at the end of the day, we're marginally less totalitarian than the world's leading sponsor of terrorism. Wonderful concession. Sure, let's find middle ground with Joy Reid and that Philly nurse and that crazy old lady in North Carolina vandalizing a Tesla. Yeah, let's understand them. Jonathan Alpert is a psychotherapist practicing in New York and Washington, author of Therapy Nation, which is coming out this spring, May 19th. Pre-order it now. Jonathan Alpert, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, thanks so much for having me. And
Interestingly, Joy Reid is also someone who had a guest on her show when she had a show, a psychiatrist who said, if you don't like your Trump-loving relatives, just cut them out. You don't need to talk to them. You don't need to face them. So, Joy Reid has really bad advice for people, or at least endorses people who give bad advice. I'm not so sure we should listen to Joy and her views on world events and how bad people have it.
Cut them out and vandalize their Teslas while you're at it, too, just for good measure.
It's amazing. It blows my mind that people are still vandalizing Teslas. And yesterday in Manhattan, where I live, I saw on a street post a big sign for a gathering, a No Kings protest happening towards the end of the month. And it blows my mind that people still think that our country is led by a king. And I have to wonder, are these the same people who are in love with Luigi Mangione and elevating him to a folk hero status? I believe they are.
No kings here, but we love the mullahs in Tehran that just murdered between 30 and 50,000 of their own citizens, 2 months ago. Right. Makes perfect sense. So this gets to my point about this piece that you wrote. There's a reason the left seems more psychologically distressed than the right. So psychologically distressed is a very generous description. What is that reason?
Well, I think part of the reason is that they feel like they've been wrong. They feel like their safety is being threatened. And then in their mind, it validates their actions, whether it's vandalizing a Tesla or fantasizing about killing Donald Trump. It justifies their actions. They have catastrophic thinking. They think that Trump is going to rule the world or get rid of rights for people, certain groups of people. So they justify these actions, and they're certainly not looking at the facts. I mean, many a times I challenge my patients thinking, well, why do you think that Trump is going to round up a certain part of the population, whether it's gays or women, and send them off to a faraway island? And they don't have a valid answer. Another part of the problem is echo chambers. These people surround themselves in certain media, whether it's Joy Reid or others, and this is all they hear, and it just inflames their thinking and supports their case. So we have a real problem on hand, and we have nurses and school teachers who are fantasizing on social media about killing Trump or hoping he gets shot. And it just blows my mind that these people don't realize that the repercussions of their actions could actually be termination.
Is there some sort of psychotic break that happens? I can understand, vituperative opposition to a particular policy. I'm just reflexively anti-war, so I'm opposed to the strikes in Iran, or I'm for higher taxes, so I'm opposed to the big beautiful bill, or I support open borders, so I'm opposed to mass deportations. But to get into political violence is another step. To attack an ICE facility in Dallas, to there's so many examples of this. Mm-hmm. I just offered one, the Tesla, to run interference for a child rapist in Boston that ICE was attempting to apprehend, which occurred. It was just reported this week, and allow him, more time to potentially commit more crimes against children in Boston. I mean, that is, sort of beyond the reasonable terms, quote unquote, reasonable terms of policy disagreement. And so for the calls to, understand, and I know I read this piece you wrote in The Hill about this, the calls to understand your political opponents as opposed to, sort of reflexively diagnose them. I don't know. They fall flat to me when you're dealing with a cohort like that we see on the streets of America, and frankly, in some of our media institutions, like you just mentioned, the medical community, education, and so forth.
Yeah, and no longer can people just disagree and oppose a certain policy viewpoint that the other party may have. They see this disagreement as a threat. Ordinary stress might be seen as emotional damage. If someone feels uncomfortable, that's often reframed as emotional injury. So what's happening here is these people aren't looking at the facts, and they might be, their baseline may be that they're more vulnerable to emotional distress, but that's certainly no excuse to support a known sex offender like you mentioned in Boston. It's almost like at all costs they just blanket support anyone that they see as a migrant. And I've had this conversations countless times with people. There's a big difference between a migrant and an illegal, and they don't seem to understand that these people are coming through the border or came through the border illegally. When I mention, have you heard about the case of this migrant who viciously attacked someone? Well, that's just an isolated case. So you have to wonder, is that okay in their mind? That someone got murdered or raped by an illegal? Just one case or just two cases?
So what's the larger dynamic, though? I mean, it just seems like I understand the symptoms, but can this be chalked up to sort of the infantilization of Americans that has been going on for the last 50 years, the inability to critically think because of the failure of our government educational systems over the last 50 years? I mean, what do you attribute it to as you've seen this develop over the course of the time you've been practicing?
Yeah, and I think part of what's going on, the left is unhappy, and they need a villain. They need an object to displace their unhappiness onto, and we've seen this play out. Bernie Sanders is great at this. He hates the rich. His rallies have so much energy and enthusiasm, hating the wealthy. We've seen it play out with Luigi Mangione. He hates the healthcare system, so he thinks it's okay to murder the CEO of United Healthcare, or capitalism. So people will rally against major corporations such as Tesla. These people need to get their head checked for starters. I think that would be a good place to begin. And they've got internalized hate and anger, and it just comes out in such unhealthy ways.
All right. Our real-life Dr. Katz, he is open for business. Jonathan Alpert is a psychotherapist practicing in New York and Washington, author of Therapy Nation, which is forthcoming May 19th of this spring. Jonathan, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Dan. Take care.
Take care. And he joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Why would you take your precious metal collections to some fly-by-night roadshow that rolls into town once a year? The only thing you need to do is follow the road to Fox Valley Coins and show your gold or silver to the team. Gold is at an all-time historical high, so don't keep sitting on your coin hoards or old jewelry that you've been saving to sell when the time is right. The time is right now. Prices have never been better on most collector and gold coins. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is trying to keep up with demand. So they're paying the most ever on not only most gold coins in bars, but also those old coin collections. You might have scarce dates or higher grade coins, so take advantage of the record high market price and the demand now. Whether you're buying or selling, or just want to find out values, trust the team at Fox Valley Coins. Fox Valley Coins is on Route 59, just one light north of I-88 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
A Social Security update. 70 million Americans collect Social Security benefits today, and millions more will join soon. Now, a new study finds 70% of Americans don't get the full benefits they deserve. But recipients can use simple strategies to boost Social Security benefits by as much as $188,000 over a lifetime. Social Security expert Michael Allen says it's true and reveals 5 key strategies to increase your benefits. It's all in his free special report. Newsmax calls the report your best guide for bigger Social Security benefits. Whether you're getting benefits or soon will, you need the Social Security report. Get it free. Call 800-999-9690. 800-999-9690. We'll text it to you right away, along with President Trump's act cutting your Social Security taxes. Call now, 800-999-9690. 800-999-9690. Text and data rates may apply.
Drowning in IRS debt? If you can't afford to pay your IRS debt due to economic hardship, you can now be free of IRS collection efforts by taking advantage of a special IRS tax hardship program. This program allows Americans who owe the IRS to resolve their delinquent tax debt once and for all. In some cases, maybe even reducing what you owe significantly. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Simply dial 800-215-8608. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back or have years of unfiled tax returns, help is standing by. Just call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-215-8608 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-215-8608 to see if you qualify. That's 800-215-8608.
If you're over 65 and struggling with knee pain, Joint Relief Institute offers a guaranteed way to treat it. It's non-surgical and often covered by Medicare and private insurance. It's JRI's joint arthritis treatment, knee lubrication placement that's so accurate it's 100% guaranteed and can relieve your knee and shoulder pain in 10 minutes or less. Book your risk-free consultation today and get back to walking, golfing, pickleball to cycling without pain or medication. Call 708-315-6800. Meet the provider, get an x-ray and joint consultation. Why wait? JRI has treated over 30,000 Chicagoans and performed over 400,000 procedures. You could be next. Over 5,000 five-star Google reviews can't be wrong.
Stop living in pain. Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800 for the Joint Relief Institute. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted.
AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So, how are your brackets doing after day one? Got off to a slow start, to say the least. Good grief. I thought Wisconsin could actually be a sleeper because they're such a good long ball shooting team that I thought they could at least get to the Sweet 16 where I had them. But alas, that was the big upset yesterday. And Flynn Clayman, the coach of High Point, North Carolina, if you don't know, if you hadn't heard of them before, he was pretty intense after the big upset win yesterday.
Your first NCAA tournament game, Coach Clayman.
It looks pretty obvious to me that high majors need to play mid-majors during the season because they said we ain't played nobody. We played somebody now.
How'd you do it?
Feels unreal because I know how good of a team we had, but nobody would play us, just like they wouldn't play Miami, Ohio. But they got to play us in this tournament.
Coach, you were down by 10 early on. What changed?
We just settled in. We settled in. We got a hell of a team. We settled in.
I mean, and he was like, he's taller than the guy interviewing him. He was just in his face, just intense. I mean, it was a great win. But okay, I mean, nobody wanted to play. Okay, mid-majors. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see mid-majors win. Miami of Ohio did get disrespected by having to play in the play-in game. I mean, I understand they didn't play anybody, and the MAC wasn't a great conference this year. But 31-0 in the regular season is 31-0, and they shouldn't have had to play a play-in game. Anyway, Chase Johnston, who made the game-winning layup, his first two-pointer of the year. There's a guy after my own heart. Stay behind the line and just pop it from distance. I like that. But this is what he said after the big win.
High Point's got the rebound and the outlet to Johnston. And his first two-pointer of the year gives High Point the lead.
You had not hit a two-point shot all year long. You get the eventual game winner on your first. How'd that sound?
Yeah, it felt great. First and foremost, I just want to give all glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. It's been an unbelievable season. This is a group of guys that's built off
John 15:13. We serve each other. We love each other. And we die for each other. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Appreciate you.
That was fun. That's what March Madness is about. That's great. So congratulations to the High Point boys. Coming up at 7:37, why do Republicans keep losing statewide races? Apparently it's all my fault. I can't wait. Chris Jones is the editorial page editor and chief theater critic for the Chicago Tribune. And that's in part the argument that he and his brethren on the editorial board made in the wake of Tuesday's primary election. So he'll explain. And I'm looking forward to hearing it at 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 50 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. As the partial government shutdown stretches on with no apparent end in sight, Transportation Security Administration officers have been working without pay. Many have called out from work, leading to long security lines and sometimes hours-long waits at numerous airports across the country, including O'Hare and Midway. With spring break travel approaching its peak, if you're planning on flying to your destination, you're advised to download the MyTSA app for real-time TSA wait time updates. The Senate is at an impasse over a funding agreement, Democrats demanding that a funding deal include reforms to immigration and customs enforcement, and bipartisan talks have yet to yield a deal. The Joliet City Council has approved plans for a massive data center near Bernhard and Rowell. That project will include 24 buildings on a 795-acre site near the Chicagoland Speedway. City officials say the development is expected to bring new tax revenue and jobs, while some residents continue to raise concerns about environmental and neighborhood impacts. News is a service of American Beam and Steel, structural repair licensed contractors for your home and business. Search for American Beam and Steel online to schedule your consultation directly with the owner, Mark. American Beam and Steel. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
If you listen to the mainstream media and the Democrats, you'd think it was a sin to be black and conservative. Well, John Anthony blows up that perception every week on Black and Right. Join John tomorrow afternoon at 4 when he pushes back against the left and its regressive, progressive agenda that tries to dictate how people should think or feel about politics. Listen to Black and Right tomorrow afternoon at 4, right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Temperatures are cooling, but not concerns about inflation, market volatility, and taxes. Revisit your financial plan this winter. Best Gen Wealth Partners work with individuals to develop personalized plans that help navigate changing conditions with confidence. Visit GetRetiredStayRetired.com to learn more.
Advisory services offered through Best Gen Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Private Client Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Private Client Services and Best Gen Advisors, LLC are unaffiliated entities. Any information discussed does not constitute investment advice. Best Gen Advisors and Private Client Services do not offer tax, legal advice.
As a local business owner, you get called every week by marketing companies. We get it. We have hundreds of satisfied customers. Here's what a satisfied client recently said.
Open enrollment is going great. We're hitting record numbers. Thank you so much for this report. It really is amazing to see how the marketing is really shaping our enrollment around the city.
Salem Surround. Is your business hard to find online? Meet with a digital marketer today for ideas that will make your business stand out. Visit salemsurround.com. Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and newnordicusa.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. 15 both ways on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose to Kennedy, inbound from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange, 24 minutes. Outbound loaded up between Montrose Avenue and Harlem Avenue, so it's 29 minutes. Your stop and go on Route 53 northbound between the Jane Addams and Euclid Avenue. On the eastbound Jane Addams, you're hitting those brakes to get onto the westbound Tri-State, and the northbound Tri-State just loaded up to get onto the westbound Ike. Now on the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the old post office is 22 minutes. Outbound is 17, 31 in, 23 out on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore, 22 in on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound looks good at 12. This report is sponsored by WeatherBug. Get the fastest local alerts and accurate 24/7 forecasts with WeatherBug. It's easy to use and provides real-time customizable alerts so the weather never takes you by surprise. Plan every day with confidence. Download the free WeatherBug app from the App Store now. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high of 60. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a low of 38. Tomorrow, anticipate partly sunny skies and pleasantly warm weather with a high of 64. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. The Chicago Tribune editorial on the Tuesday primary election. It reads in part this: the vacuum created by the absence of a functional Republican electoral apparatus has been filled by consultants and operatives who continue to profit from losing campaigns. A small circle of donors and strategists, including conservative radio talk show host and political consultant Dan Proft, has repeatedly produced the same results: expensive statewide bids that go nowhere. One close observer put it bluntly to us, describing Proft as, quote, Pritzker's most effective political operative, unquote, despite being paid by Republicans. Proft reportedly hauled in $25,000 a month from the Dabrowski campaign, only to serve up a rematch between Pritzker and Bailey. Democrats dominate Chicago and the inner suburbs. Republicans do the same, but have largely maxed out their gains there. The path to relevance in Illinois runs through outer suburbs and exurbs. Any progress is sure to be incremental, requiring seat gains, stronger candidates, and a rebuilt coalition, not a sudden statewide revolution. Oh, a victory runs through the suburbs? It sounds like something I've been saying for, 24 years, since we started to see our numbers atrophy in the suburbs when Jim Ryan lost to Rod Blagojevich in 2002. And continued on in 2006 with Topinka, and continued on in 2010 when Brady lost to Quinn. And then we had that interregnum with Bruce Rauner. And then Bruce Rauner imploded. And then he lost by a historical margin for a Republican in 2018. I wasn't on that team. We tried to remedy his betrayals by nominating Jeannie Ives in that primary in 2018, you'll recall. But okay, that's my fault too. And then 2022, they said the same thing about my super PAC, the super PAC I ran, I should say, not mine, the super PAC I ran that supported Bailey and was really responsible for his blowout primary victory. And then, of course, we were not coordinated, so I ran my messaging and he ran his messaging because I was an independent expenditure PAC. And then, of course, he performed poorly and lost decisively to Pritzker. And so this time around, we had Ted Dabrowski from the suburbs, which the Tribune editorial board argues we need to reconstitute ourselves in the suburbs. So you had an intelligent policy wonk, not somebody that's repeating the talking points they hear on Fox News, which is what the Tribune editorial board accuses the Republican Party of being. We had the exact kind of candidate that they say we need, but he's up against $60 million in residual name ID from the effort we put forward on behalf of Bailey in 2022. and Bailey's run in 2024 against Mike Bost in Southern Illinois, which, even though he lost again, produced more supporters in that part of the state. Against a first-time candidate, we put together $1.7 million. That's not a lot of money. Doesn't go very far against the kind of lead that Bailey started with in that race, which everybody knew, which is why Bailey didn't participate in the debates and ran a Rose Garden strategy. He knew he starts way ahead, and you were going to have to generate significant resources to catch him. And how did Heidner and Mendrick do on that score, in addition to pulling 100,000 suburban votes between the two of them? So we're splitting up the Chicago metro vote against Bailey's base in Southern Illinois and residual name ID. But, I mean, I get it. The Chicago Tribune editorial board, very concerned about the Republican Party's future because it's full of conservative reformers. And they have great insight into what the Republican Party should do, obviously, and concern for the Republican Party. I'm moved by it. So, I mean, I want to learn, too, just like anybody else. I'm open-minded. So let's find out how we win. Chris Jones, editorial page editor and chief theater critic for the Chicago Tribune, Broadway critic for the New York Daily News, and author of Rise Up, Broadway and American Society from Angels in America to Hamilton. Chris Jones, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Good morning.
So tell me how we win. Besides getting me out of it, I know.
Well, I think let's start out by saying that our concern here was motivated by a desire for the Republican Party in Illinois to be stronger because it's not providing voters with a choice at this present moment. That we have as you probably know, the headline on that particular editorial was the Republicans are essentially disappearing, and that I do think, in all fairness, we should acknowledge that was our main concern, was to try and say voters need a stronger Republican Party in Illinois. And a lot of that came, I think, from the lack of candidates in gerrymandered races, which I know you know all about. But I think that was also what we were trying to say, is that in race after race after race, primary voters just didn't come. And they really had no good choices on the ballot because donors knew that in most of those races there was not going to be a chance in hell to win. And so I think that's what we were motivated by when we wrote that editorial, if that makes sense.
How many Republicans are on the editorial board at the Tribune?
Well, I wouldn't, we like to not disclose any particular affiliation like that, but I think it's fair to say that...
Zero?
No, not zero. Absolutely not. No,
Name one.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Not doing that. But nonetheless, there's a lot of interest in the Republican Party, and genuine interest and a genuine desire in wanting the Republican Party to be functional in Illinois, so the voters have a better choice.
But you didn't endorse in the governor's race. Why?
Well, we have a board of directors that didn't permit us to do that. So we're owned by a board of directors that decided that all the papers that they own should not endorse in two races. One was governor and one was senator. So what I did was I tried to marshal our resources so that we could talk about those races. And I think it was pretty clear. We spoke to Ted. We spoke to Darren Bailey. They met with us, and we had our opinions on that. And, it struck us that Bailey was a bit of a change guy, probably as a consequence of what has happened in his family. And he had a better message this time, we thought. And we reflected that in what we wrote. And, I mean, is your view that that's not the case, that it's just you? From what you said at the beginning, it sounded like you think it's the same old Darren Bailey, right?
Yeah, as a candidate. And by the way, I'm sure the editorial board knows this because they're such keen observers, but I supported Darren Bailey because you were talking about legislative races too. So just a point of order on this, getting lectured by the Chicago Tribune editorial board about infrastructure and state legislative races. And then, the cheap shots, I made $25,000 a month as a consultant to the campaign, right? You have to get those shots in because you're so venal and ignorant, frankly, there's no understanding that I raised twice as much as I took in compensation and did all the work of a general consultant, the kind of things general consultants don't do. But that's irrelevant. I understand. Also, I ran an independent extra PAC that supported state legislative candidates going back to 2012, trying to get better Republican candidates out of primaries and hold races at that time and then win back races in the suburbs. We put tens of millions of dollars into that effort with some success, including Darren Bailey, who I backed the first time he ran for state representative against an incumbent who had voted for Ronner's tax increases. So I know Darren Bailey very well, particularly in experience in a way that nobody on your editorial board knows, particularly from last cycle. And so we made an assessment. And then so I was criticized back then by some of the same people for backing Darren Bailey, and now I'm criticized for not backing him despite performance. And you're all about sort of performance metrics because we got to win. And then you do the Tony McCumbee thing, the legislative leader who you guys really like. Of course you do, a surrender Republican who supported the Amendment 1 to codify the public sector unions as the bosses of this state. That's real good conservative reform. And in 2024, she picked up exactly 0 state House races. She's the House Republican leader. That's her responsibility. I have nothing to do with her. I have nothing to do with John Curran. But the fact that they languish in the minorities, as they did under Durkin before her and Radonio before him, but we like her. I mean, it's we do like her. Well, no, it's fine. It's fine if you like her, but could you actually apply the same measurements and the same thresholds to people across the board rather than just taking cheap shots and being so intellectually dishonest, which is what this editorial was?
All right, fair enough. Well, you're entitled to your opinion. I understand.
Yeah, thank you. Well, now respond to it.
Well, the point was a good one. The point was a good one that it was a bad election for Republicans. Some of it was functional, some of it was structural. But at the end of the day, we found Ted to be a limited candidate. I mean, that's just what we found. And I would say going into this cycle that we thought that would be somebody who would be the person that we would be more likely to support. And I think after our meeting, we didn't find that. We just didn't find him to be somebody who could solve these problems that you're talking about. And, he's a very nice guy, a very smart guy. I think you're right about that. But there was something missing in that campaign that you looked, in the sense that you looked out at that guy and you didn't necessarily see a future governor. And I think that was something that we were surprised a bit by, and that probably indicates some of the issues that we were talking about.
Okay, but I mean, it's okay, though I disagree. I mean, all this talk about Ted, not having charisma or whether it doesn't look like a governor, whatever, this nonsense by the same people who are pension reform and property tax caps and law and order and all these seemingly intractable problems. And here's a guy who spent the last 15 years investigating, studying, reporting on, detailing, advocating for sensible, common sense, conservative reform policy solutions, distinguishing himself certainly from the political power structure that exists, being way ahead of the learning curve with both parties on things like school choice, which Pritzker is opting out of, that would present a real contrast in the general election. So, you talk about competence, and that these are the qualities the Republican Party needs to exhibit. And then we elevate or try to elevate a candidate whose calling card is competence, not charisma. And it's, he's not gubernatorial enough. I mean, it's really something to behold, the logic there.
I don't think he was, man. I don't think he was. It's not to say he couldn't be, but as presented in this cycle, I don't think he was.
And again, the larger commentary on what the Republican Party needs to do and all these bromides about investing in the grassroots and state legislative races and so forth. So who should do that? Is the Chicago Tribune editorial board, because they're so concerned about the Republican Party, are they going to take up that banner?
Well,
Because I know you're giving the legislative leaders a pass, so I just want to know who's going to do it.
Who's going to do it within the Republican Party, you're asking me?
Yeah, maybe the Chicago Tribune the editorial board should step in.
Well, we have our views on what the Republican Party should do, and it's all done in the spirit of having a stronger Republican Party in Chicago and in the Chicago suburbs and in Illinois. And that's our job, is to say this is not working, and this is how we think it needs to change. We're obviously not the ones who are going to do it. It's not our job. Our job is to point out the need for a strong Republican Party and what we think is the sort of the pathway to do that. And we were arguing in that editorial, the pathway ran through suburban Chicago. Now, we're moderate.
No kidding.
You're right about that. That's so guilty as charged, right? So we're thinking that the Republicans need to find candidates that suburban voters can be excited by. Yes, the party needs to find candidates with a bit more charisma. I think that's a factor. And I think that if you look at that, you've got to remember that Donald Trump got 44% of the votes in Illinois, and that preference that you saw a couple of years ago was not reflected on Tuesday night. And so that tells you that the voters out there who want to vote Republican and not finding the candidates that it's not necessarily whether they'll support them or not, but they weren't even coming out to the primaries to make their opinions known. I mean, surely you can agree with some of that, right, Dan?
Well, of course. I mean, fatalism is a huge problem. I mentioned it the day after, 560,000 Republican primary voters as compared to 800,000 4 years ago. But the difference is you had people that were actually investing in candidates, not just mine, not just the candidate I backed and not just the investors I had, but obviously Ken Griffin put $50 million behind Richard Irvin, and Gary Rabine spent 7 figures of his own money to run, and Jesse Sullivan had backers too, to the tune of $10 or $12 million. So you have resources, then you generate awareness and you generate interest. You don't have resources because people take the position you took at the outset while wishing for a viable Republican Party, that none of these candidates have a chance in hell, and the donors go away, and it's hard to run campaigns that penetrate people's consciousness in a state this big and this populous with limited resources, which all of the candidates had. So, Darren Bailey raised 15 cents. So good luck in a general election unless you have those angel funders that you decry when they're aligned with me coming to his rescue, which I don't think they will, because everybody feeds into this fatalism that I'm describing, saying there's no chance in hell, Pritzker's indomitable, Illinois is lost, and so on and so forth. I was attempting, as was Ted, thankfully, it was good of him to try, to chart that different path with somebody viable in the suburbs, because victory comes through the suburbs, since we both agree on that. And in response to that, we get the I get the cheap shots and Ted gets the, you weren't charismatic enough. I mean, the punditry is almost as dismal as the power structure in the state, I got to say. But okay, you guys got your say, I got my say. I appreciate you coming on and going tit for tat with me, as always. I do appreciate that. Chris Jones is the... Go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll say one last thing. What struck us when we were writing that editorial was, I think it was Margaret Croak in the race for controller, got more raw votes than all of the Republicans in the primaries put together. And I think we looked at that and we went, well, that clearly means that the Republicans have got to change what they're doing to some degree.
No kidding. I've been arguing that and efforting it since, I don't know, about 1996. But, okay.
Fair enough.
But I'm the fall guy. I can take it. I can take the weight. No problem. Chris Jones, editorial page editor and chief theater critic for the Tribune, Broadway critic for the New York Daily News. And let me promote your book. And author of Rise Up Broadway and American Society, From Angels in America to Hamilton. Chris Jones, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
And he joins us in Chicago's Morning Answer.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Sean Thompson here, and I'm with attorney Bert Hochberg from the law firm of Schiller, Ducanto, and Fleck. We're talking about divorce arbitration. This is not really a new, or is it a new, innovative way to go through divorce?
Arbitration has been around for decades. It's completely legit and available to resolve divorce cases. The litigants and their lawyers sign an arbitration agreement. They identify what the issues are, and we set up dates, and we determine what experts and witnesses there may be. Arbitration is a hearing, a trial that is intended to finish a case efficiently with limited appeal, with a binding decision, and it's confidential, so it has some great characteristics.
I think it's a unique alternative to divorce. For more information, please visit sdflaw.com and type Bert Hochberg into the search box. That's sdflaw.com or call direct 773-255-6150.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results. Done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, EVER, remodeling.com. And schedule your free in-home consultation today.
We work a lifetime to build a legacy for our families. But the most enduring gift you can give them is the peace of mind you provide when they need it most. When you pre-plan your arrangements at Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago, you replace the weight of uncertainty with the gift of clarity. Secure today's costs and protect your family from making emotional and financial decisions at the time of need. It's a final act of love they'll never forget. Visit CatholicCemeteryChicago.org or call 708-236-5407.
Don't miss cutting-edge coverage of daily news on the Alex Marlowe podcast.
For so many years, we thought we would see terror. Is it a Muslim? Now we're starting to think, is it a trans person? And we've indulged all of this. It's completely our fault, self-inflicted wound. We've run so hard away from the science and towards insanity. They'll never stop. They will never be done. They will always try to take more. They will always try to create more chaos.
Subscribe to the Alex Marlowe podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com. In his new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, Dinesh D'Souza brings the new Middle East into focus.
Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be somehow tied to this place?
At long last, we have peace in the Middle East.
Israel and Christians are coming together in a way they have never been before.
But is this the end of Hamas and radical Islam? The Dragon's Prophecy is powerful, prophetic, a must-see movie. Now available on Amazon, YouTube, and iTunes.
At Terra Vista of Oak Brook Terrace, dementia care isn't just what we do, it's all we do. We specialize in caring for those with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. We're on the forefront of dementia care with a barrier-free, stress-free environment, so residents can explore safely and feel at home. But what truly sets Terra Vista apart? Personalized care. We take the time to learn each resident's story, where they lived, their routines, former careers, even the names of family members. Anyone who interacts with your loved one can immediately make them feel comfortable and understood. We meet our residents right where they are. Residents stay strong and engaged with multi-sensory activities, music, art, horticulture, our beautiful 18,000 square foot outdoor space, and even a personal trainer. At Terra Vista, residents aren't defined by their dementia. We honor the whole person. Speak to an advisor or schedule a tour today at terravista.org. Again, that's terravista.org, and tell them AM 560 sent you.
On Salem News Channel, principled voices are shaping today's conversation. Scott Jennings brings clarity to the toughest debates. Josh Hammer's blistering commentary puts politics and culture on trial. And Alex Marlowe's insight connects us to what matters most. Watch anytime on Samsung TV Plus, Pluto TV, or find us on your screen at snc.tv. 3 new shows, 1 powerful lineup. Salem News Channel, across America.
AM 560, The Answer.
By the way, just a postscript. I mean, the Chicago Tribune editorial board is moderate, like Abigail Spanberger is a moderate. Please. Don't forget, at the bottom of the next hour, Open Mic Friday. At the top of the next hour, we're talking Iran with Josh Trevino from Texas Public Policy Institute. It's now 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND.
Trying to take out the threats to oil shipping.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what the U.S. keeps doing on day 21 of Operation Epic Fury.
The Pentagon announcing it is now deploying the venerable A-10 Warthog, the 50-year-old war horse beloved by ground troops for years, armed with this massive 30-millimeter chain gun that spits out nearly 4,000 rounds a minute of depleted uranium, probably the only uranium the Trump administration wants to see in Iran. It is targeting Iran's small Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps gunboats along Iran's southern coast right now.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson in Dubai.
Now, despite more than 7,000 American airstrikes on Iran over the past 3 weeks, a country more than twice the size of Texas, attacks against energy facilities throughout the Middle East continue. Early this morning, multiple Iranian drones hit a Kuwaiti oil refinery, causing a partial shutdown.
Now, oil prices were up earlier. Now they're down modestly. Gas, though, up another 3 cents today. AAA's national average for regular $3.91 a gallon, almost $1 more than a month ago. President Trump wants Congress to provide $200 billion in new funding for the Iran conflict.
It's a small price to pay to make sure that we stay tippy-top.
But Democrats may block that funding in Congress. The Senate's minority leader calls it ridiculous. Now an update on Jimmy Gracie, the University of Alabama student who went to Spain on spring break, found dead in the water near Barcelona Beach after disappearing early Tuesday.
The family says they want to better understand how this happened. How did Jimmy end up in the water? Was he alone? Police have yet to answer those questions, but this morning they do tell us that at this point, all the evidence they have points to it being an accidental death, and they don't suspect that any kind of foul play was involved.
Fox's Garrett Tenney. Winter will finally go away next hour, but as spring starts, it's like summer in the Southwest. Triple-digit heat forecast again the day after it hit 110 near Martinez Lake, Arizona, the hottest March temperature ever recorded in the U.S. America's listening to Fox News.
WIND, Chicago.
Good morning. It is 50 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Police in Spain say a missing college student from the Chicago area has been found dead in Barcelona. Authorities say James Gracie disappeared during a spring break trip after he was last seen early Tuesday evening leaving a beachfront nightclub. Investigators say his body was found Thursday near the beach and the cause of death remains under investigation. A vigil was held at Loyola University last night for a student who was killed early Thursday morning. Chicago police are continuing to look for the suspect in that shooting death of 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman. Police say Gorman was walking with friends on a pier in Rogers Park when a masked gunman opened fire in the group's direction. A bullet struck the teen in the head. She died at the scene. Police say she was not the intended target. Over 800 United Steelworkers are locked out of the BP Whiting refinery in northwest Indiana. That move happened when the two sides stalled during contract talks. Union leaders say that BP wants to cut over 100 jobs and reduce salaries. Management says its proposals are needed to keep long-term sustainability of the refinery. BP leaders say they don't expect the lockout to impact daily operations, as the refinery will continue operations with trained replacement workers, and those workers who are locked out will continue to get some benefits. Union leaders say they expect the lockout to last for weeks. And the Chicago City Council has given the green light to a $27 million settlement to the family of a woman who was killed during a police pursuit almost a decade ago. Stacey Vaughn Harrell died when a car that was being chased by officers struck her vehicle. Taxpayers will cover $20 million of that settlement, and the city's insurance company will pay the remaining $7 million. News is a service of Steiner Homes. Building homes is more than a business, it's a calling. Family-owned and dedicated to building custom homes with care, integrity, and craftsmanship that you can trust. Visit SteinerHomesLTD.com. That's SteinerHomesLTD.com. Northwest Indiana's leading home builder, Steiner Homes. Love where you live. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes, but it's time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
It's looking like another losing week for the S&P 500 as crude oil prices remain elevated, though Bank of America Global Research says a lot of people have been investing despite the Iran conflict. BOA says investors poured more than $62 billion into stocks, $23 billion into cash, $10 billion to bonds, and $1 billion into crypto in the last week. They pulled $4.5 billion from gold. Gold was trading over the $5,000 mark. It's now in the $4,600 range. FedEx says the Mideast situation is not keeping people from shipping packages. It reported a record holiday profit and says global demand's holding up, though it will be impacted if customers pull back. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
more money with leading economist Steve Moore.
I'm excited about America. I think things are going really well. I think we've turned a corner here. I think Biden economics is well behind us now. This is a miracle what's going on here. If anything, it's better than I thought it would be. So many good things can happen in the economy. Low inflation, low unemployment rate, consumer confidence up, business confidence up. All of the indicators are pointing north right now.
It's More Money, Saturday at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm Boomer Esiason. My mom died from cancer. She was only 37 years old. She didn't have life insurance, and that was devastating for my family. That's why having life insurance is so important to me. Ethos makes it fast and easy. Get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. You can get up to $3 million in coverage with no medical exam.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/save. That's ethos.com/save. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
You ever wonder why Verizon charges twice as much as Pure Talk for the same basic service? Think it might have something to do with the fact that Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotion. That's billion with a B. Yeah, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. That's why they can offer unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a blazing fast 5G network for just $25 a month. Save an additional 50% off your first month when you dial pound 250 and say the words micro. That's pound 250, micro.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hackberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. 15 in, 16 out on the Edens from Lake Hook to Montrose, 30 in, 27 out on the Kennedy from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange. Stop and go on Route 53 northbound between the Jane Addams and Kirchhoff Road. On the Jane Addams eastbound, you've got delays to get onto the westbound Tri-State, and the northbound Tri-State is jammed as you approach the outbound Ike. 24 in, 20 out on the Eisenhower from Wolf to the O Post Office. 36 in, 28 out on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. You've got 23 minutes inbound on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange, looking great on the outbound side at 11 minutes. Northbound side of Lakeshore Drive starting to get busy now between Bryn Mawr Avenue and Hollywood Avenue. And in Grand Park, Balboa Drive closed both ways between Columbus Drive and Lakeshore Drive for this Sunday's Shamrock Shuffle race. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will bring a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high of 60. Tonight, expect partly cloudy skies with a low of 38. Tomorrow will be partly sunny and pleasantly warm, reaching a high of 64. On Sunday, there will be a passing shower in the morning, then turning mostly cloudy, breezy, and cooler. The high will be 54 with temperatures dropping into the lower 40s. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering 24/7 security solutions for homes and businesses. Call them today at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and I mentioned earlier in the program, seems like there's some good news afoot in terms of a coalition coming together to support the American-Israeli campaign in Iran, despite some of the initial hesitance. President Trump, and you know, we'll see, but President Trump entertained the Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi at the White House yesterday. And he said this in their press availability with her sitting next to him.
Japan to step up because, you know, we have that kind of relationship. And we step up for Japan. We have 45,000 soldiers in Japan. We spend a lot of money on Japan. And we've had that kind of a relationship. So I expect, I'm not surprised that they would step up. We don't need much. We don't need anything. I mean, honestly, we don't need anything from Japan or from anyone else, but I think it's appropriate that people step up. In the case of Japan, I hear they get more than 90% of their oil through the strait. So that's a big reason to step up. I mean, we've demolished, that country is close to demolished. The only thing is the strait. It's very...
Trump was asked about putting troops on the ground.
potentially put U.S. troops or more troops in the region?
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you. But I'm not putting troops, and we will.
And then there was this sort of interesting moment when he was asked about the surprise strikes on Iran. At least they seem to be a surprise to the Iranians. The element of surprise.
Japan and U.S. are very good friends, but one question, why didn't you tell U.S. allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about we Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. When we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? He's asking me, do you believe in surprise? I think much more so than us.
And of course, the D.C. press corps lit their hair on fire over that comment, but really to no avail because later on, Prime Minister Takaichi said that she and Trump are BFFs.
A stronger Japan and a stronger America. A more prosperous Japan and a more prosperous America. I am very confident that Donald and I are the best buddies to realize this shared goal.
で、ドナルドと親交が深かった安倍晋三元総理が
Yeah, I don't expect people to know Japanese. The best buddies was the important part there. And in addition to the very collegial relationship that President Trump enjoys with the Japanese Prime Minister, he also has a coalition builder in NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, who continues to be upbeat about Allied support for the military campaign in the Middle East.
In my contacts with allies all over NATO territory, what I'm sensing and hearing is that we all agree, as we always did, that it was crucial for Iran not to get its hands on a nuclear capability, a ballistic missile capability, and what the US is doing at the moment is degrading that capability of Iran, and I think that's very important. This is important for European security, for the Middle East. It is vital for Israel itself. Then when it comes to the Hormuz Strait, everybody agrees. This strait cannot stay closed. It has to open up again as soon as possible. This is crucial for the world economy. In my context with allies are seeing is that they are intensely discussing amongst each other, with the United States and amongst each other, the best way forward to tackle this huge security issue. And let me add to that, that I'm confident that allies, as always, will do everything in support of our shared interest.
It's interesting how leadership in the direction of Western civilization builds consensus, and Trump is providing that leadership. Back on the Hill, one more piece to this discussion before we bring Josh Trevino on. Back on the Hill, CIA Director John Ratcliffe and DNI Director Tulsi Gabbard were testifying before the House Intel Committee, and I thought this was an interesting moment. Josh Gottheimer is a Democrat from New Jersey. But listen to this Q&A that he directed.
Is the Iranian regime committed to America's destruction, in your opinion?
Yes.
Does the Iranian regime have American blood on their hands since its founding in 1979?
Yes.
Has Iran plotted assassination attempts against Americans on American soil?
Yes.
Was Iran developing a nuclear weapon prior to our military action last June? And did Iran remain committed to developing a nuclear weapon in the lead up to this conflict?
Yeah, so I want to clarify on that because there's been much talk about a fatwa against the development of a nuclear weapon.
Can you come back to that 1 second? Let me finish
yeah,
this.
You bet.
Okay? If left unchecked, do you think Iran would have the ability to develop missiles capable of reaching the United States?
Yes.
Did Israel force the U.S.'s hand and make us take action, as some have claimed?
No.
Director Gabbard, do you agree with the CIA director's assessment on that last question in particular?
Josh Gottheimer is sort of channeling John Fetterman there in breaking ranks. For more on this, Joshua Trevino joins us. He's the Chief Transformation Officer, great title, at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. But I've known Josh for a long time, and his knowledge is not limited to the state of Texas. He is a great geopolitical mind. Joshua Trevino, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, do you are you imbued with some optimism, like I am, about the comments coming from the Japanese, as well as from the Secretary General, as well as even from some Democrats?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just manifest that even in those who dislike the president, of which there are many abroad, their interests are going to compel them to join us in forcing open the Straits of Hormuz, just as the president has said from day one. So he'll be vindicated in the end on this one.
And you also wrote recently about Iran failing to adapt to the changing geopolitical reality that is Donald Trump in the White House, where Russia and China were a little bit more adroit. Explain.
Yeah, exactly. One of the signal features of Donald Trump's foreign policy making is that very little of it is a surprise. Contrary to the exchange in the Oval Office with the Japanese Prime Minister yesterday, he is very, very clear and very explicit about what he intends to do, what his end state is. And again, we see actors overseas, whether it's the Venezuelans, ask Nicolas Maduro about whether the president follows through on his intentions. And the Iranians are just the latest in a long list to realize that he means it. He's very direct. He is arguably the most open and candid president of my lifetime. And so the Iranians failed to adapt. They were told what would happen. They were told what the American goals were, and they simply didn't believe it, coming from a political culture of their own that deals in deception routinely. And now they're paying the price. So hopefully there's going to be some more credibility down the line overseas when it comes to thinking about what the Americans are going to do.
Yeah, and I know the D.C. press corps and the Democrats, and I repeat myself, like to suggest that Trump is forever moving the goalpost because, he speaks, as he said, he's candid, he speaks extemporaneously, he's not, he doesn't contain himself to talking points and the repetition of them. But to my mind, the objectives that were set out when he first addressed the nation a couple of Saturdays ago have remained unchanged. And it's just a question of, which was always sort of a known unknown, of the opportunity that will or will not present itself for regime change. But something that Scott Bessent said yesterday in the confab with the Japanese prime minister, I thought was noteworthy.
Yeah, so Ed, we are seeing the defections at all levels as they're starting to sense what's going on with the regime. It doesn't get reported here in the U.S. very well, but we are trouncing them from the air, and the regime will probably collapse within itself. At Treasury, we've seen where they've wired their money out of the country. We're coming for that. We're going to get it back to the Iranian people.
Mr. President, defections.
So defections, money outflow. I mean, that's not saying that the collapse and a popular uprising to install new leadership is inexorable, but there are some indicia that this is occurring, and that maybe requires a little bit of patience with an impatient public.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And anyone exhibiting impatience really needs to take a step back. This war is less than a month old. It's really only about 3 weeks old. Started on February 28th. Of course, you could make the argument that the Iranians have been at war with us for over half a century, which I think is true. But give some time for the policy and the strategy to play out. Human events do not happen overnight. And there is a strategy with this one. There is a vision for it. And, to your point, Dan, not only has the president been consistent in the past few months as to the American goal here, he's been consistent for the past several decades in his view of the Iranian regime and what ought to happen to it. So this now is fulfillment time.
Is there anything that you see at present that is particularly concerning to you, sort of in the direction of bogged down forever wars? The handles that are used in terms of the concern about people, the concern people have about an extended stay in that theater.
No, not in the sense that I see that coming. We were bogged down in Afghanistan for 20 years. We've been fighting Iran on the combat level for about 20 days. It's simply not comparable. Americans ought to always have rational concern for policymaking. I think that's something the president would agree with. But at the same time, this is qualitatively different than what we've seen, particularly in the Middle East over the past generation. And it is a necessary policy, and moreover, one that's been forced upon us by the Iranians themselves. So we need to give it time to play out.
Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli PM, of course, also held a presser yesterday talking to the foreign press in which he addressed one of the contentions from those like Joe Kent, who are opposed now to this intervention.
These opening remarks with one other fake news, and that is that Israel somehow dragged the U.S. into a conflict with Iran. Does anyone really think that someone can tell President Trump what to do? Come on. President Trump always makes his decisions on what he thinks is good for America, and may I add, I think what is also good for future generations.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with it. I think that the accusation that Israel dragged us into this, or that Israel is manipulating the United States into any of this, in addition to being a subspecies of anti-Semitism, which is abhorrent in itself, is also profoundly ignorant of how the U.S.-Israel relationship has played out, especially under President Trump. We have to remember that on two occasions, just within the past 12 months, President Trump has essentially imposed upon the Israelis operational and strategic end states that they didn't necessarily want, one with ending the Gaza war, the other with ending the summer 2025 12-day war with Iran. America's in the driver's seat here. President Trump's in the driver's seat. Israel is not a junior ally. They're a partner. But at the same time, we need to understand very, very clearly that what's happening with policymaking in the White House is actually, as the Israeli prime minister said, happening in the interest of America first. And that's actually how it should be.
And Trump addressed that to this point, gave a substantive example yesterday when he said this.
Blame him. Thank you, Mr. President. Have you talked to Prime Minister Netanyahu about attacking the oil and gas fields?
Yeah, I did. I told him don't do that, and he won't do that. We didn't discuss. We do. We're independent. We get along great. It's coordinated, but on occasion he'll do something, and if I don't like it, and so we're not doing that anymore.
And it wasn't just him saying it. Netanyahu said the same thing. We're not going to strike oil fields or energy infrastructure anymore, at least for now.
Look, the war, this is important for Americans to understand. The war is not being pursued with the unified Allied command. As the president said, there is close coordination between the Americans and Israelis. We share, refueling, we share, joint planning. But at the same time, the Israelis are not fighting as subordinates to us, nor we to them. And that's fine. They are a model ally. They're a good ally. And we're lucky to be able to have them with us on the battlefield. But at the same time, we're distinct nations with distinct interests, and we're going to pursue them, and that's going to continue.
Joshua Trevino is the Chief Transformation Officer at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Joshua, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
And he joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation. The summer heat in Chicagoland is no joke. And if your old air conditioner is making funny noises, you may already know it's time for a new unit.
Look, your air conditioner, it's a disaster. People are telling me it's the worst ever.
Don't sweat it, literally. When it comes to cooling your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Rebates are still available. Financing is flexible. And at Air Right, installations are smooth and professional with no surprises.
It's beautiful. Some people say it's the coolest air anyone's ever felt. I don't know. That's just what they're saying. It's doing an incredible job. Really tremendous.
Plus, tell them AM 560 sent you, and Air Right will give you $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling, doing it right since 1959.
This is Seth Leibson for townhall.com. Writing about our nation's last greatest Republican president, Ronald Reagan, George Will wrote, quote, "At a turbulent moment, Reagan became the great reassurer, the steadying captain of our clipper ship. He calmed the passengers and the sea," close quote. At the rate things are going, President Trump may very well outdo Reagan. Yes, Reagan ended the long twilight struggle against Soviet communism, but the war in Iran has been waged against us for 47 years and gone on longer than that long struggle. Donald Trump has decided to end that war, and decisively. He's already taken out the communist dictator of Venezuela, and there is every reason to believe Cuba Libre will be more than a chant or a drink, but a reality by the end of the year. Killing off regnant communism in this hemisphere and the head of the snake of Islamism the world over, regardless of political considerations here at home, is the kind of thing we used to call heroic statesmanship. These ambitions and accomplishments have no equal. Trump may well be ushering us to freedom's finest hour.
AM 560, The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call it now! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. And yes, it's that time of the week, Open Mic Friday, where we take your calls, 312-642-5600. With your comments, concerns, criticisms, compliments, general crack pottery. We'll take it all. Before we go to the lines, I did want to balance this out a little bit, too, because I don't want people to think that I am cheerleading for war. War involves horrible decisions, very difficult decisions to make. And, of course, we can't forget that 13 American soldiers have lost their lives so far in this campaign, and Americans are stepping up to honor them appropriately. And I'm not just talking about the Trump administration, but I'm including them. I thought this was a nice moment that Polk County, Florida Sheriff Grady Judd had. One of the individuals, one of the 6 soldiers who was killed on that crash of that refueling plane, is Captain Cody Cork, who is from Polk County, Florida. And this is how he is going to be celebrated, how his life is going to be celebrated back home.
This is Captain Cody Cork. He's 35. He's from Winter Haven. Normally, the pictures I hold up are of bad guys. This is a hero. This man went off to war at the direction of his country. He was in the U.S. Army Reserves. He was called up. He died in the early days as a result of an attack. His casket is arriving tomorrow at about 1 p.m. in the afternoon. We are escorting him to the funeral home. His family's asked that we escort him past Florida Southern College, where he went to college, so we'll be doing that. City Police, Orange County Sheriff's Office, Hillsborough Sheriff's Office is going to work with us. It's going to be a big escort. This man is a hero, and he died in order that we can live in a free and democratic society, and he did what was asked of him of his country. Once he is escorted to the funeral home, which is in Winter Haven, he will remain there until he has services this weekend. And then on Monday, we will escort him to Bushnell, which is his final resting place. From the time he arrives in Polk County on that airplane until the time we take him to Bushnell, Captain Cody will not be by himself. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there will be a deputy standing guard because it's the right thing to do. We're proud of him. We're proud of all our military personnel that are standing in the gap and doing what this country's asked of them.
Sergeant Tyler Simmons, he died in that KC-135 crash, the refueling plane. He's from Columbus, Ohio, or that area around Columbus, Ohio. And a network affiliate there interviewed his mom upon his death. It's tough stuff.
Tyler's gone. Oh, help me, Jesus. He was truly an amazing man. And to do the job as an air refueler is a special person. It's a You have to be kind of smart to do that. And, you know, he was loving. He loved his dog, Grayson. He loved his family. He's loved his friend, Shayna. You know, he's just that guy. And he would do anything for you.
Tyler's parents remember the exact time uniformed officers showed up at their door that night, 10 o'clock.
When he opened the door, he said, "Oh, no." And I jumped up and ran in there, and they were lined up out on the porch. And I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." I love them people. And they loved him.
So much so, Cheryl says, while he served in security, superiors saw something special in Tyler and invited him to join a new team as a boom operator. He was the one transferring fuel from the Stratotanker aircraft to other military aircraft.
Once he got in the back of that airplane, that was it. He said, "I will retire from this, Mom. I will retire from this." I said, "Well, what about the pilot? You always wanted to be a pilot." "I'll do that with commercial after I retire from doing this."
Now, instead of looking forward to Tyler becoming a commercial pilot, getting married, having children, she and her husband are preparing to bury their only child.
And it stops. We're done. You know, no children.
So God bless Tyler Simmons, Sergeant Tyler Simmons, and his family as well, and all the families and servicemen who've lost their lives in this war so far. 312-642-5600 to give us a call or text. Nick, Northwest Side.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. It's nice to hear your voice all the time. Our people got to get in the habit of saying the same things that the Iranian so-called leaders have been saying constantly since I can remember, which is Israel is a little Satan, death to Israel. America is a great Satan, death to America. These people in Iran who run that country, these extremists, they've been hurting and killing our people regularly, and sometimes in the dozens, rounded out in those kind of numbers, you know, with explosions of truck bombs and all that. I don't know why our people don't do that, to remind our people here that this is not Israel telling us what to do. This is not Trump coming up with some kind of idea that the world's going to be a better place by doing this. This is a harsh reality that he's dealing with, that Trump is dealing with, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick. Chris in Rogers Park.
Hey, Dan, thanks for doing those stories on the soldiers. That's incredibly important. That was really good. Appreciate that. On the Iran stuff, I really feel like Trump's got us in a great place here. I mean, they're on CNN screaming about gas prices being up. It's his fault. It's his choice. But really, he's got us like a baseball hitter in the on-deck circle swinging a heavy bat. And these prices are going to come down hard in the summer and into the fall. And it's going to be a great feeling for people going into the midterms. Next thing I'd like to see from him is something on healthcare, because if he can do that, we're going to be in good shape for the midterms.
Thanks for the call, Chris. Hope you're right about all that. Glenn in Orlando.
Yeah, hey, Dan. I want to comment on the unfortunate situation with the Loyola student and all the others who have been killed by these evil people, and it angers me. And I want to read something from St. Thomas Aquinas, which is very appropriate. I want to direct this to all the religious leaders in the Chicagoland area. He who is not angry when there is just cause for anger is immoral. Why? Because anger looks to the good of justice. And if you can live amid injustice without anger, you are immoral as well as unjust.
Very good, Glenn. Thanks for the call. You know, that prompts me to get to something that we didn't get to yet this week, but we can right now. Speaking of religious leaders, Cardinal Supich, what is his perspective on our campaign in Iran? Well, he's focused on the White House using war videos to, essentially rally support for the campaign, and also just to, frankly, I think, just to demonstrate just how uber competent, how impressive our military men and women are. But he doesn't like it.
The video presentation that the White House posted was deeply offensive, especially not only to the people who were killed in the war so far, but especially to our American troops. The object with regard to a video game is a hit, but in the case that we have here, it's not just a hit, it's a grieving family that has lost children, as we have seen in the bombing of that school. If war is the first option, then there's no way in which it's going to end. Peace should be the first option. Diplomacy should be the first option.
And peace and diplomacy weren't tried with Iran, haven't been tried with Iran for nearly 5 decades. Talk about missing the forest for the twigs. You know, whatever. Maybe there's a video or two that's a little over the top and a little bit video gamey, and it doesn't convey the seriousness that this moment demands with lives on the line. But that's really your focus as a religious leader. And the suggestion that war was the first option. Blaise Supich. Can always count him to flack for the neo-Marxist party. And that includes standing with them in essentially, it's hard to describe it otherwise, with few exceptions, like Josh Gottheimer, I mentioned before, the Democrat from New Jersey, John Fetterman, essentially rooting against America because of their dislike of Donald Trump. And how morally bankrupt is that? Blaise Supich telling us what is and what is not is disrespectful of the men and women in uniform. That's a hot one. Rick, Downers Grove.
Hey, good morning. Hey, my thing is with the SAVE Act. This is like a no-brainer legislation. It should be in by 9, out by 5. When you get across the board, 80% of the country saying, yes, we want this, and these buffoons in Washington are having a hard time hemming and hawing how to do this, it tells me that they're supposed to represent us, I thought, but it tells me they really don't, because this should be something that should be done already. And I don't understand why it's such a problem with these people.
Thanks for the call, Rick. We had a really good conversation earlier in the program with Heather Higgins on that. And if you missed it, I suggest people go back on the podcast and listen to it. She offered some very good insights and explanations to the quandary that Rick is highlighting. But it is very frustrating, particularly when you do a little comparison contrast and you watch Democrats, as I've said many times, willing to exercise power they don't have, while Republicans are unwilling to exercise power they do have. You see it repeated over and over again, particularly in 80, 20, 90, 10 issues. Democrats, the neo-Marxists, are happy to beset America with 10 and 20% issues and just pound and pound and pound to try to get them to plurality issues and even majority issues. Think of all of the aspects of this identitarian revolution that they have attempted to foment over the last 20 years in particular, with real emphasis in the Trump era of the last 10 years. Everything from, even going back to Obama, everything from marriage redefinition to sex redefinition, things that were unspoken and because they were so unpopular, spoken and prosecuted wherever they can, however they can. And here you have an 80-20 issue. And again, the outsider, the layman outsider looks and says, White House, House, Senate, and you can't get voter ID done? You can't advance a measure that the supermajority of Americans support to enhance the integrity of our elections? Right. It's pretty depressing. Jordan in Antioch.
Morning, Dave. Hey, the people that are saying that Trump was drugged into the war or the attacks with Iran and everything, they're drugged in by Bibi and Israel. Are these the same people that call him a serial narcissist, dictator, a king, that he wouldn't do anything good if it wasn't his idea first. Are the same people that think that he got drug into anything by somebody else. And I'm old enough to remember that right after October 7th, when Netanyahu and the Israeli parliament, they decided they were going to go on the offensive, there were a couple times, I'm pretty sure, didn't Trump publicly come out and say they were doing the wrong thing? Didn't he call Bibi out for some of the things that he was doing? So
there were some disagreements. Yep.
Yeah, it's always both. They want both sides, right? It's just, so I think anybody that thinks that, you need to really just squash that and just move on with your life, because it's more smoke and mirrors and projectionism. It's just crap. So,
thanks for the call, Jordan. Yeah, it is difficult to reconcile those two characterizations of Trump, isn't it? Colleen in Plainfield.
Hi, Dan. I'm just sitting here still dumbfounded by Chris Jones telling us that the Republican Party needs more charismatic candidates. Who are said charismatic candidates on the Democratic side? But, I mean...
You don't think J.B. Pritzker is a matinee idol?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And so we just released the possibility of Ted Dabrowski, who he's saying isn't that charismatic. We released him back into the wild. We're not pushing him forward. And he was a serious candidate who's trying to take on the mess that said charismatic Democratic candidates have gotten us into with serious solutions. And I again, just dumbfounded. But that brings me to, I wanted to ask you regarding your assessment of what's happening to the Republican voter in Illinois. You mentioned they're fleeing. You mentioned apathy. And I want to throw into that a recent article by Arthur Brooks where he talks about hobbyism. And I think I see that as in my local Republican organization, we're constantly trying to recruit volunteers. I think people want to sit behind their computers and they want to send memes around. It's easier. They don't want to go to a school board meeting. They don't want to go to a township meeting, a county board meeting, walk for a state rep. Do they even realize how their dollars are being spent? They rather sit on social media and play this politics as a hobby game. And until we get more people who want to be serious about this and go door to door and meet Republicans and draw them out and tell them why they need to care. Anyway, I'm just interested in how you think social media may or may not be helping us.
Yeah, that's a great point, Colleen. Thanks so much for the call. I read that Arthur Brooks hobbyism article too. That's a good one. And it's a huge problem. And, you know, part of it is sort of endemic to the difference in philosophy and coalitions of the two parties, right? Because government is the mother's milk for the neo-Marxist party, and much less so for the Republican Party, even in Illinois. And so they treat this as, well, the source of their power, prestige, and compensation. And the Republican Party treats it very differently. As you said, it's more of a hobby. It's more of a civic duty, but I've got other things going on, and I, work and family. I, of course, understand that. But the other side, it's the proverbial knife to a gunfight, and we have long lacked street fighters in the Republican Party, particularly in leadership, where it all starts. It's a big problem. And it's metastasized, and and there's a lot of ways to be a street fighter. I mean, like, again, as I mentioned with Dabrowski before, yeah, he is room temperature, but he's tenacious. But sometimes that's difficult to convey if you're not charismatic or you're not pugilistic with your rhetoric, and that's just not Ted's personality. But he's authentically who he is. And that's what we should want. I don't recall Mitch Daniels or Scott Walker, doing the Nikita Khrushchev routine, banging their shoe on lecterns and engaged in, hyperbole and demagoguery. And yet, look at their respective records during their times in Indiana and Wisconsin, respectively. So this is very much, the Chris Jones thing, the Tribune editorial page editor that talked to earlier in the program. This is the typical sort of pot-shotting that you get from people who actually don't know very much about what they're talking about when it comes to electoral politics. And that certainly would include the Chicago Tribune editorial board. And so it's just, which is why the whole thing is in conflict with itself. The argument that they tried to make, as we went through with Chris Jones, on the one hand, we want competence, but when we get competence, we want charisma. On the one hand, you're losing races, but we're going to give legislative leaders, feckless legislative leaders, present and past, a pass on languishing in the super minority and failing almost at every turn to take up any conservative reform ideas, but never failing to fold in with the Democrats. It's a mess. We don't want people to mega donors to donate where we don't want them to donate because we have ideas about where they should spend their money. Okay. And even when we support, on the one hand, them spending money here, we decry them when they spend money in another place that we don't like, or backing another candidate that we don't like. It's all just, it's just also incongruent, which is why you should, generally speaking, ignore those individuals in those outlets, except for the point of exposing them, because, that argument takes hold in certain quarters. And you hear the same illogical bilge spewed every election cycle, and all the excuse makers and all the armchair keyboard warriors that Colleen is talking about, giving us chapter and verse of how campaigns should be run that they've never been a part of. The kind of candidates we should have when they don't participate. They just take pot shots and do Monday morning quarterbacking. That's fine. It's part of it. As I said, I could take it. Blame me for everything. I've said it before on this show, too. I'm the singular reason why we haven't won a governor's race since 2014. And even though I haven't participated, we don't have any constitutional officers, and we've languished in the super minority for a generation. It's all my fault. Okay. Sure. Fine. If that makes you feel better. And then you can just go about your daily business bitching, blithely ignorant of what's happening, and then you'll tune in at the last minute for an election, and when and whoever loses, if you supported that person, you'll just blame them and the people around them for the loss. I mean, that's one way to do it. I don't think it's particularly compelling in terms of a model, but okay, sure. I'll say again, as I often say, I'll just make my case and you make your judgment. Fine. I can take whatever the Chicago Tribune editorial board or anybody else wants to dish out. Michael in Oak Brook.
Hey, Dan, how are you doing? I wanted to speak about Chris Jones. I think you're looking at it the wrong way. I think you should wear it as a badge of honor. For them to attack you, it must mean that you're being effective. And what I want to talk about is how corrupt our media is. I mean, I myself know that Ray Long was doing a story on the Speaker of the House, and I was interviewed for that story a couple years ago, and it was killed. It was a negative story on Chris Welch and all his domestic battery and domestic abuse and all the cover-ups. So they stopped it. You look at it today, Epstein Island. What if Darren Bailey, what if President Clinton under oath said Darren Bailey was at Epstein Island? You think the media would be investigating it? You think Springfield would be investigating it? What do we have here? Nothing but dead silence. So to me, we have an uphill battle. And it's people like you, it's people like Sean Thompson, my friend, a street fighter, that can get the word out. You're not going to get the word out on TV or in print media. It's the radio and it's social media that the word is going to come out and the truth is going to come out. But I thank you for what you do. God bless you. Keep it going.
Thanks for the call, Michael. Kevin in Austin, Texas.
Dan, thanks for taking my call. I feel like I was teed up for this. First of all, Colleen, thank you so much. Yeah, that might be better. Colleen, thank you so much for what you saying. You got to go with, we lost with Ted Dabrowski or the candidates you wanted. Now we've got, you've got Darren Bailey. You got to go to war with the army you have. And as far as what does the Republican Party need, they need more precinct chairs at that level. Right now, I don't know, in Texas what they do is they have like precinct conventions. And then after the precinct conventions, it goes up to the county level. I think those are coming up soon. And then you'll have your state conventions. And that's where the party platform is built. I was responsible not just for my precinct, but several other ones. And we didn't have precinct chairs there. But but the people who came, even though there was no precinct chair, were able to put input, and then they get involved. That's what the Republican Party needs, more people in the grassroots. And as you know, I've been talking about this for 4 years. If there was more people on the ground, more foot soldiers for Ted Dabrowski, he might have been able to win. And I think that's something that you can do. And
well, you can do it, but as I always respond to this argument, there has to be a motivating factor. There has to be there has to be a point. We're going to battle to accomplish what? And at least Ted laid out something specific, but we don't have that organizing vision in the Republican Party in the state. We've lacked it for a long time, and that's the void that actually has to be filled.
Right, and that's that's a both and type of thing, right?
Yes.
I think one excludes that.
Correct.
Excludes the other. I think
one begets the other. One begets the other.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the one begets the other. You can do both at the same time, right? I mean, who are you going to lead if there's nobody who's involved in the precinct level? My point is, right now, you've got people who are listening to you, who listen to the station, that can get involved, and there's an opportunity coming up. And you can do that. The best time and I've talked about this before, the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. Next best time is today. So you can get involved. And it's going to take a long time to change things for the Republican Party in Illinois, but that's something that listeners can do now. That's where you can be a fighter and a foot soldier. I was just at an executive one recently, and I hope you don't cut me off. I got an argument with somebody, and they kicked me out. But I'm still involved. I'm still going to get involved and try to do something. That's where you have your family fights. They're in private. And then when you put on a public face. Right now, I think the Republican Party needs to put on a public face to not only beat Pritzker, but every other Democrat that's Republican winning. And even if you lose, you're still involved and you're advancing the football. So I just mixed a couple of metaphors. Have a great day.
Thanks for the call, Kevin. Bob in Rogers Park.
Yeah, I never knew what Ted Dabrowski looked like until I saw his campaign literature. Turns out he looks like Robert Preston. If he had thrown his fingers up in the air and yelled, "We got trouble," he might have won.
Oh, is that a Harold Hill reference?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Music Man. But but he was not a huckster. He was the opposite. Matt, Oak Lawn.
Hey, good morning, guys. Or good morning, Dan. Happy Friday. I don't blame the candidates for losing. I blame myself for living in a place where I have nothing in common with my fellow voters. It's insane. I've never. It's unbelievable. I've nothing. Lose. It's pathetic that I live here. But on a much lighter note, talking about our revered cardinal, I was in New York over the summer, and I was at a restaurant coming back from the restroom, and there were two archdiocesan priests having dinner. I stopped. I said, "Hey, you know what you guys have what Chicago has that you guys don't?" And one of the older priests, he had a few in him, big smile, and he goes, "The Pope." I said, "Absolutely." And he goes, "Do you know what New York has that Chicago doesn't?" I said, "What?" And he goes, "We have a cardinal who's not a POS." And I burst out laughing.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. And there was a younger priest at the table. He didn't know what to do. I said it was funny. It was. But
I like candor from the cloth. That's good. Thanks for the call, Matt. Appreciate it. Mike in Yorkville.
Dan, thank you for taking my call. Two things real quick. Before you end the show, can you cue up Frank Sinatra's "I Did It My Way"? Because today you had the perfect example of why Dan Proft is not married by that article. Because you've been blamed for everything. Why do you need to be married and be blamed for everything just the way?
I've already got it. Yeah, right. I've already filled that bucket. Yeah, very good.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Mike. which is a great segue, I think, to our poet laureate, Chicago Morning Easter poet laureate, Joe from Arlington Heights.
Good morning. A Singular Man by Joe from Arlington Heights. A strong voice emanates from the radio booth, a man of intellect promoting the truth, who's an effective advocate for moral clarity, who also supports many worthy charities. With the stones to stand against any foe, armed with facts beyond what most of us know, timely discussions of issues with quality guests, with thoughtful conversations, we are often blessed. But with all these admirable qualities, notwithstanding his abnormalities, after decades of trying to mingle, our brother Dan is still single. His knowledge of cinema is great, perhaps an entree to a first date, until they learn he can't cook, clean, or sew, and chicks don't care how many college mascots you know. Unfortunately, romance is not his forte, so on the golf course he spends his day working so hard to improve his game, a good use of time when you ain't got no dame. The common legacy for most men is a heritage of fathering children, but sadly, there's no assurance once born whether your kid will be a rose or just a thorn. Why then would a man so great labor futilely to find a soulmate? Surely God must have greater things in mind, like using his genius to improve mankind. Thus we pray no feminazi airhead dare endeavor to conquer his bed, nor shall any awful or tart ever break his most loving heart. Undoubtedly, Dan's gift to the world writ large is tirelessly leading the conservative charge, well supported by his excellent radio crew, entertaining enlightenment for me and you. And that's a singular man.
Thank you so much, Joe. That's very nice, overly kind and generous to me. But please email that to me so that I can have it etched in my tombstone. I want to get that prepared. Thank you very much. That was very, very nice. Thank you, Joe. Roger in DeKalb.
Hey, Dan. Yeah, I was just wondering if, that incredible Illinois policy wonk, Chris Jones, if you happen to know what Chicago neighborhood he might have grown up in, because I do not recognize that dialect. I'm thinking maybe he grew up with Dennis DeYoung, but I'm not sure because I can't pick it out. But it says all you need to know about the Tribune, that they're led by a theater critic. So it's like,
yeah, you didn't pick up the Beverly accent there, Roger.
Yeah, I guess I didn't. I wasn't sure, some North Shore thing I'm not familiar with. But there it was.
Yes, Chris Jones is a Brit. But, again, he and his brethren on the Tribune editorial board are extremely concerned about the success of the Republican Party and, as demonstrated, uniquely knowledgeable. All right, PM of Ireland.
Real quick, I heard that Brandon Ennis Johnson's hairdresser is moonlighting as a moil until she took off a bit too much off the top. Dan, I am trying to get you married off, and the way we can do it is you have to hire me for $8 million to ghostwrite your autobiography, Carjacked on the Road to Serfdom. And I've started a couple chapters. The first chapter relates to that Tribune editorialist and Broadway critic, and the first chapter is entitled "Disingenuous and That Ingenuous." And lastly, it's the Irish time of the year, and what do you call the first Irishman out in the springtime?
What do you call him?
Patio furniture.
Hi-oh. Thanks for the call, PM. That'll be my unauthorized biography that you write. Carjacked on the Road to Serfdom is not bad. I still prefer Cooler by the Lake. Chuck in Delavan to close it out. Chuck, quickly.
Hey, it's that time of the year again. It's going to be 70 up here in Lake Geneva. Everybody can come with their boyfriends and girlfriends and their husbands and wives, and all the men can sit on the porch, out on the benches, and then they...
Thank you, Chuck. And it's now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND.
The U.S. has now hit Iran with more than 8,000 airstrikes. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. But on day 21 of Operation Epic Fury, Iran keeps countering.
Early this morning, multiple Iranian drones hit a Kuwaiti oil refinery, causing a partial shutdown. Drone attacks on Saudi Arabia continue.